After flash marriage with a disabled giant author, Shi Copy, Shi Yunan was sent abroad by his parents since he was a child, and he lived like a child that no one loved, but he still had fun, and he couldn't do anything because of his appearance. As a result, he was tricked by his elders to return to the country and temporarily informed that he was about to marry the young master of the Luo family. What futile thought! It's outrageous! Shi Yunan packed his luggage that night and planned to run away the next day, but as soon as he fell asleep, he dreamed of a terrible scene. He dreamed that his life was just a male supporting role in a book, and because he did not deal with the protagonist of the book, he ended up in a situation of betrayal and separation. The beginning of all tragedies started from his wanton escape from marriage. After waking up, Shi Yunan was blocked at the door of his house before he could think about it. Master Shi thinks that our Luo family is not worthy of you. The man in front of him has a handsome face, abstinence, and provocative temperament, and the whole body is extravagant. Even those long legs that had to rely on a wheelchair danced wildly on Shi Ershio's aesthetic point. Oh, the words of the matchmaker ordered by my parents, I am an obedient and good child. Shi Yunan pretended to be reserved for 3 seconds, then nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. It's worthy, of course it's worthy. Has the wedding banquet been set? Husband, the man stared at his smiling face and replied subtly, just tonight. Only after entering Luo's house did Shi Yunan know the young master Luo, who was really engaged to him, escaped in time than he did. And the man who came to propose marriage for young master Luo was actually the uncle of the other party, the current head of the Luo family, Luo Lingsheng. Luo Lingsheng was designed in the early years, and he suffered from inconvenience in his legs and feet. Over time, his temperament changed greatly, and others were afraid of him, and dared not approach him. In everyone's eyes, only second young master Shi is an exception. Shi Yunan's temperament is wild and hot, and he is fearless in the face of things. He dares to face Luo Lingsheng in front of everyone. Hi, husband crowd? It's us who disturbed small theater. Not long after Shi Yunan entered Luo's house, he heard that Luo Lingsheng had a white moonlight hidden in his heart. Because of the inconvenience of legs and feet, he loved Bai Yueguang but didn't dare to provoke him, and watched the other party fly away. Shi Yunan didn't care at first, but later he was jealous in secret, and then OMO? Bai Yueguang is actually me? Instructions for mind sweeping in the pit 1. Shi Yunan, acceptance, ex Luo Lingsheng, attack, 2. After marriage and love, the attack has been planned for a long time, and the body and mind are only each other. 3. Same sex can be married, and the attacking leg can be healed in the end. Don't ask, it's a medical miracle limited to Xinjiang 4. Focus on the protagonist CP, do not dismantle or reverse. All supporting roles are to serve the plot line, will not overwhelm the guest. 5. The writing is novice, basically follow the style of Suoshuang's writing. The plot of the original book has a foreshadowing, and the subsequent text will gradually reveal the secret. Don't worry about KY. If the little cuties don't like watching, then retreat. Retreat. After sale is not included. Content tags, rich and powerful family slaps the face, sweet text, cool text. Search keywords, protagonist, Shi Yunan, Luo Lingsheng. Supporting roles, Wen Yibei, Fu Ziyu, Yuan Rui. Others, column pre-received articles. My soul and I have interpenetrated, entertainment circle. Krypton gold giants, absurdity. Mainland one sentence introduction, I am in place, hi. Old attack. Dear. Purpose, be down to earth and reap a bright future with your true abilities. Brief review of the work. Shi Yunan is the second young master of the Shi family who is considered poor by outsiders. After returning to China, he was forced to enter into a commercial marriage with the young master of the Luo family on behalf of the family. On the night when he was about to escape from marriage, Shi Yunan accidentally dreamed that his life was just a male partner in a book, and the turning point of his fate was this escape from marriage. The next day, Shi Yunan, who had changed his mind, abandoned the intended marriage partner and went directly to Luo Lingsheng, the rumored ruthless and disabled-legged head of the Luo family, to agree to a flash marriage, and the latter agreed decisively. It was not until after the marriage that Shi Yunan suddenly found out that he was actually Bai Yueguang, whom Luo Lingsheng had a crush on for 8 years. This article is a cool article about anti-book piercing routines. The Aborigines in the world rely on their own wisdom and ability to attack the face-piercing book piercer in a group of top supporting roles. The characters are clearly shaped and the rhythm of the face slap is online. In addition, the super sweet interaction of attacking and planning for a long time ex being loved after marriage is worth reading. Shi Yunan had just returned to China, and was leaning on the aisle for a while waiting. The young servant came out of the next study with a tea tray, and when he met him, he couldn't help but glance at him. The brown chestnut hair is a little long, and the slightly raised hair ends just hang on the sides of the neck, and the middle parted bangs can't block his delicate eyebrows. The shirt on his body was not tied with the top 2 buttons, revealing his delicate collarbone, which was hot and probing sexy. Shi Yunan noticed the servant's gaze, and his tone rose, "Are you new here? Look at the face." The dim top light reflected the smile in his eyes, which was seductive. The young servant was startled, and even his ears were red. "Second young master, I." Before he could answer, there was a small chatter from the first floor. "You said, what is the second young master doing at this juncture? Who knows? It's not because of being disgusted when he comes back? How many years have he been sent abroad? Where does he still have a place in this family? I heard that there is a problem within the company, and the master plans to call the second young master back to help." "Help? Don't be joking. With the virtue of the second young master who spends his time abroad, it is more likely that he will come back and compete with the third young master for family property." Taking advantage of the leisurely moment before the meal, the rest of the servants hid in the utility room on the first floor and chatted in a low voice. At this moment, the voices were continuously uploaded. When Shi Yunan's biological mother died, he was sent abroad by his elders when he was less than 8 years old. At first, Shi Yunan would return to China during the holiday, but soon there was a new wife at home, and the other party expressed his rejection of him. Father Shi defended on the surface, and secretly turned to the wife who entered the door behind, and even the head of the family, Mr. Shi, had a cold attitude towards his grandson. The more Shi Yunan's thoughts of being home are worn away, the fewer times he returns to China. In a blink of an eye, he became a dispensable person in this family, and even the servants dared to gossip about him behind his back. Shi Yunan listened to these demeaning remarks, and the smile in his eyes cooled down. The young servant panicked and was about to go downstairs to stop it, but Shi Yunan grabbed the cup on her tea tray first. "I'll use it." The exquisitely crafted teacup drew a perfect parabola in midair, and the ground on the first floor shattered into pieces with a bang. The irritating discussion downstairs suddenly stopped, and the servants ran out of the utility room to check the situation. Shi Yunan put one hand on the railing of the aisle, and warned with a half-smiling smile, "Why don't you speak louder? I promise that the next cup will hit your head." Second young master. After chatting behind the back, the main master heard it clearly upstairs. The servants felt guilty, and immediately picked up the debris on the ground in a panic, daring not to say half a word. Click! The door of the study opened again, and a spirited white-haired old man walked out of the study, with a middle-aged man beside him. Looking closely, the eyebrows of the two are very similar. Shi Yunan said lightly, "Grandpa, Dad." After so many years of separation, their grandfather and grandson, father and son have long been separated by strangers, but they are only at home, and this nominal title has to be called. What just happened? Such a big commotion. It's nothing, it's just that I'm unhappy when someone chews their tongues. Shi Yunan replied nonchalantly. Mr. Shi looked at his grandson like an eagle, and after 2 or 3 seconds, he was dissatisfied and gave the order, "What does it look like if the clothes are not neat? Fasten the buttons and let me go downstairs to eat." In the early years, Mr. Shi made his fortune by freight, from single-handedly running long distances to large freight teams, and then to national chain freight companies. Shi Jianen's current wealth and achievements all came out one by one. Mr. Shi has been in power for decades and has a strong personality. Even now, he still has the final say inside and outside the Shi family. Shi Yunan was accustomed to the other party's stern and indifferent attitude, and closed his neckline at will. After the two elders went downstairs with their backs facing each other, he blew a sigh of relief at Lu Haihu and followed him downstairs. By the table, the servants who were still stubborn just now did not dare to let out the air for a while, and all stood honestly. "Dad, this is the chicken soup I cooked for you myself. I added a lot of medicinal herbs to it. It's a great supplement." A beautiful woman dressed in rich clothes came out of the kitchen and said very nice words. The servant who followed behind brought the soup pot, and she couldn't wait to get a bowl of soup for Mr. Shi. "Come on, you drink it, be careful it's hot." Shi Yunan picked up the wine glass and stared at the beautiful woman's attentive appearance without a trace. The other party is his nominal stepmother, Xia Wei. Less than a year after Shi Yunan's mother died, Shi's father brought the woman into the house. Later, Shi Yunan learned from the old servant's gossip that Xia Wei was originally Shi's father's first love. After Shi's mother died of illness, the two reunited and came together again. Not only that, when Xia Wei entered Shi's house, she brought her 7-year-old son with her ex-husband. It stands to reason that the old man Shi would only refuse more, but Xia Wei didn't know what tricks he used, so he forced the old man to agree with a livid face. After so many years, Xia Wei has become a veritable wife of this family, and the children she and her ex-husband have had can also be called 3 young masters. Let the children with their own blood live abroad alone, but let the children of outsiders stay at home as young masters. Not funny? Not funny? Shi Yunan narrowed his eyes, and the next second, he heard the question from the grandfather Shi in the main seat. "Yunan, it's been almost 3 years since you graduated, and you still plan to stay abroad and make a fool of yourself?" There was no concern in his tone, more like a foreshadowing of the coming storm. Shi Yunan pretended not to notice the clue and shook the glass. "It's good abroad, Grandpa, I'm used to it." Sure enough, the old man cut him off sharply before he could finish the sentence. "What's good? I think you're living a very comfortable life as a young master. You're already 24 or 5 years old. What else would you do besides spending money? I don't know how to share some of it for the family." Facing this sudden accusation, Shi Yunan's mouth twitched slightly. 2 years ago, he just graduated and he didn't think about going back to Shi's to help, but what happened? The old man said, "What do you know, a stinky little brat? Wherever it is cool, take it with you." Was dismissed. How did it get to be his now, isn't it? No one spoke, and the atmosphere at the table instantly dropped to freezing point. Shi Sheng's eyes wandered between the grandfather and grandson, and after hesitating for a moment, he got up and gave Shi Yunan a piece of whole crucian carp meat. "Yunan, Grandpa is for your own good. You have been abroad all these years, and we elders can't worry about it. Come on, eat a piece of fish, I remember you liked fish the most when you were a child." The original concern from his father's long absence should be moving, but it's a pity that Shi Sheng's words and deeds as a good father are too unnatural. And Shi Yunan is past the age where he needs this kind of fatherly love. He looked at the steaming fish meat in the bowl, and returned with a light smile. "Dad, when I was 8 years old, my throat was stuck by a fish bone, and the nanny is not here, you and Aunt Xie are busy going out on a date. I cried for a long time and there was nothing else. Help me with the maid. This matter has left a shadow on me. I have long stopped eating it." "Why, you don't know?" Shi Sheng got stuck. How did he remember this? Looking at each other, his face finally revealed a trace of embarrassed red. Perhaps it was because he hadn't seen each other for too long. Shi Sheng always felt that he couldn't see through his son. For example, now, listening to heartless statements, there is always an indescribable sarcasm, criticizing him for not being qualified to use his father's identity as a good person. Seeing that the atmosphere solidified again, Xia Wei had to keep winking at her husband beside her, as if there was something urgent to announce. Shi Yunan took this scene into his eyes, and then turned to the still stern face of Mr. Shi. He was called back to China by Shi Shang temporarily, saying that the old man was suddenly unwell, and that his grandson must come back. Looking at the latter's expression now, sickness is just an excuse to urge him to return to China. Grandpa, Dad, if you have anything to say, just say it directly. Shi Yunan is used to going straight abroad, and he doesn't like to go around. When Xia Wei heard this, she couldn't sit still. Yunan, listen to Aunt Xia, there was a problem with the big project that the company invested in some time ago, and the capital chain used for turnover broke down. Bankruptcy. These last two words, Xia Wei did not dare to presume in front of the strong old man, for fear of making a taboo. She looked around and confirmed the acquiescence of Mr. Shi and her husband, and then she said as a matter of course, we have already negotiated with the Luo family. As long as you and the young master of the Luo family have a commercial marriage, they can. Shi Yunan understood the intention in the words, and finally sneered for the first time tonight, what are you kidding? Although today's homosexual love and marriage have long been seen, but let him marry a stranger casually for the benefit of the family? Totally impossible. We're talking to you about serious business, why are you joking? Mr. Shi finally spoke. He is traditional and rigid in his bones, and completely disdains this kind of same-sex marriage, but in the current absolute family interests, he has to agree with this practice. The Shi family has few heirs, and after thinking about it, only Shi Yunan is suitable. Since the Luo family doesn't mind the marriage relationship between men and men, how can they break it off? The family has spent money to support you for so many years, when it's time for you to put in some effort. Shi Yunan heard the stubborn tone, and ridicule in his heart could no longer be contained. Who paid for him? All he knew was that since the age of 15, the Shi family hadn't sent another cent to his card. It was thrown into the sky when it was useless, and forced to be picked up when it was urgently needed. It really treated him as a cargo. Shi Yunan lost the leisure to eat, and kicked the chair back suddenly. Stab! The legs of the chair rubbed against the ground, making a long, ear-piercing sound, as if to publicize Shi Yunan's true mood. I'm tired after flying for more than 10 hours. Shi Yunan got up, not giving anyone a chance to continue lobbying, go back to your room to rest, you guys eat slowly. Seeing his grandson's reluctant answer, Mr. Shi ordered in a deep voice, you can't escape this matter. Think it through for me in the past 2 days, and then I will contact the Luo family to arrange a meeting between you. Grandpa, if you want to see you, I won't stop you, but don't involve me. Shi Yunan drank the wine in one gulp, turned around and walked towards the second floor, ignoring everyone's expressions. The servants who ate the melon all the way looked at each other and couldn't help but muttered in their hearts, is the second young master clearly contradicting the old man? Haven't seen each other for a few years. Did he eat bear heart and leopard gall? Shi Yunan didn't wait for Mr. Shi to attack, he hid in the bedroom and locked it, took out his mobile phone and booked a flight abroad for the next day. Since the family had kept him from the beginning, it was impossible to keep him now. Shi Yunan likes men, but wants him to give up his happy life abroad and marry a person who he has never met a few times? Also euphemistically called business marriage? Just outrageous, open the door to outrageous home. Go dream. Shi Yunan took a few minutes to suppress the pouring desire to complain, and then he washed and went to bed. Long international flights are the most exhausting. Shi Yunan planned to wait until he had a full night's sleep, and then run away tomorrow with a luggage, but he didn't expect this sleep. He first dreamed a strange picture. Shi Yunan dreamed that his life was nothing but an unlucky male partner in a book, and the protagonist of this book was his titular brother, Xia Qiyu, who was called the Three Young Masters by others. The other party is a soul from another world. After the accident, he accidentally penetrated into the novel titled 10 Billions of Money through books and became the male protagonist of the same name. Because he memorized the plot development of the original book, Siake got acquainted with the bigwigs in the book step by step, and established his own investment kingdom along the way. Not only was he on the list of China's richest people at a young age, but he was also sought after by countless admirers. He is an absolute cool man. Shi Yunan, who is a novel native, is the complete opposite. Because he resisted marriage and chose to run away from marriage, this act severely aroused the dissatisfaction of the Shi and Luo families, and instead gave Xia Qiyu and the young master of the Luo family a chance to get to know each other. After leaving Shi's house, Shi Yunan was jealous of Xia Qiyu's wealth and connections because of his own unhappiness. While maliciously hindering the development of the other party's career, he learned from the other party to hold his thighs everywhere to pursue his career, but unfortunately, under the suppression of the other party's protagonist halo, he only ended up with a reputation for being vain and mercenary. He was ridiculed and punished by Xia Qiyu and others, and he owed a huge amount of foreign debts. In the end, he chose to end his life in a rental house. This dream was particularly long, as if it had progressed page by page from the beginning of the novel to the end, and the vividness was outrageous. When Shi Yunan woke up, he found that his whole body was soaked in cold sweat. It is said that the clearer the dream, the easier the memory will be blurred after waking up, but the content of these original books seems to be imprinted in his mind, and he can't get rid of it no matter what. Time passed minute by minute. Shi Yunan sat on the bed, having huge doubts about this realistic dream. After all, he has lived in this world for 25 years, how could he subvert his original cognition just because of a dream? Just when he fell into self-pulling, the mobile phone communication suddenly rang. The word Fu Ziu was displayed on WeChat on the mobile phone, which is Shi Yunan's best friend abroad. Shi Yunan rubbed his swollen temples and connected the voice call. The next second, the strong disco music at the other end of the video came over. "You're at the bar again? It's so noisy." "Wait." The phone was noisy for a while before it became relatively quiet, and Fu Ziu on the other end said, "I sent you several messages and didn't reply. Is Mr. Shi okay?" Fu Ziu, his best friend, knew about Shi Yunan's return to China. "What can be wrong? I think the old man is strong, and I think he can live another 70 or 80 years. Shi Yunan dealt with it, and told his friends about the outrageous encounter at the dinner table last night as a joke. After Fu Ziu heard it, he immediately began to rant, "Absolutely, what are you all carrying in your head? I have left you abroad for all these years. Now that the company has a problem, I want to use your lifelong event as a bargaining chip in exchange for interests. Bah! If you want me to tell you, you should have followed your brother back to Wen's house, so why stay in Shi's house and suffer from this anger?" Shi Yunan raised his eyebrows and did not refute. In fact, he also has a twin brother. When Shi's mother died, the two brothers were only 7 years old. The Shi and Wen families, who were supposed to be in-laws, happened to have a lot of conflicts at that juncture, and even fought for the support of the brothers. Right. In the end, the two brothers followed the family alone. My brother followed my grandfather back to Wen's house and changed his surname to Wen Yibei. As the younger brother, Shi Yunan stayed in the Shi family as the second young master, but was sent out of the country by the Shi family cruelly within a year. Shi Yunan and Fu Ziu have known each other for many years, and the latter knows the general family situation. Fu Ziu faced his friend and dared to jump out of anything across the phone screen. "By the way, what is the name of your stepmother's child? Why didn't Mr. Shi and your father let him marry?" "Xia Qiyu." Shi Yunan was subtle for a moment, and the plot of the dream reappeared in his mind. "Yes, then Xia Qiyu's identity as the third young master sounds good, but you are the blood of the Shi family. Your brother returned to the Wen family early, and now the old man has let you into the Luo family. I'm not saying, is this old man confused? He has taken a child with a foreign surname as a treasure all these years, and his mind has been biased to the West. Is it possible that the company's assets will be handed over to Xiaqiyu in the future? The last sentence is purely Fu Ziu's eloquence, but the speaker has no intention of listening. Shi Yunan raised his brows in a rare way. The reality and the dream actually had a real sense of handover again at the end of the original book. Xiaqiyu indeed took all the assets of the Shi family alone. And Mr. Shi declared to the public, Xiaqiyu changed his surname back to Shi and was the veritable heir of the Shi family. You know, Mr. Shi is the most traditional type of person. Is he really willing to hand over all the assets he has worked hard all his life over into the hands of a child who is not related by blood? Obviously unlikely. Dreams and reality are intertwined, and Shi Yunan, who was in deep thought, made a suspicious guess. Hello? Yunan? Why didn't you speak? It's all right. Shi Yunan gathered his thoughts and glanced at the packed suitcase in the corner. I have scheduled a flight at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. See you abroad when I arrive. He is not a puppet at the mercy of others, there is no place for him in this family, and now he is trying to treat his marriage as a deal. Of course, the farther away, the better. Okay, I'll wait for you to come back. I'll wrap up the newly opened bar on Financial Outer Street, and I'll clean it up for you and get rid of bad luck. Shi Yunan teased and chuckled, Brother Fu, go get your babes, don't use me as an excuse. The phone hangs up. The smile at the corner of Shi Yunan's mouth quickly solidified, and he fell back into that realistic dream scene. To be honest, Shi Yunan doesn't have much desire for the inheritance of the Shi family's property. In comparison, he has another thing that he is eager to determine. 10 minutes later. As soon as Shi Yunan went down the stairs, he heard Mr. Shi's dissatisfied scolding, I didn't wake up until this point, you are really used to being lazy abroad. A new day, a new scolding. Shi Yunan twitched the corners of his mouth speechlessly, and before he could refute, someone spoke for him. Grandpa, Yunan only came back from abroad yesterday, and the jet lag hasn't come back. Anyway, you're at your own home, so don't blame him. The person who spoke for him was the third young master Xiaqiyu in the words of the servants. He slowly poured a cup of ginseng tea for the old man, and then he met Shi Yunan's eyes friendly, Yunan, come and sit, I was out last night, and I didn't have time to catch the wind and wash the dust for you. Shi Yunan smiled indifferently, and looked at each other silently near the table. In fact, the two have no contact at all in private, let alone feelings. Shi Yunan only had a superficial impression of this half-brother. The other party's temperament follows that of his mother, Xia Wei, and his daily openings are pleasant and pleasant. Since he entered Shi's house, the elders have been coaxed into obedience, and even the servants respectfully shouted third young master. But in yesterday's dream, Xiaqiyu was a real ruthless character. He is a book-wearer, and he is a proud man who has mastered all the plot lines. From the beginning, laughing as a pig and eating a tiger, to the follow-up sharp-edged decisiveness, every step he takes is within his plan. Following his followers, he can also get a little sweetness, on the contrary, the enemies who oppose him will only end up worse than the other, without exception. Yesterday the young servant approached and asked in a low voice, Second young master, shall I go to the kitchen to get you some hot breakfast? In fact, it was only 9:30, but before the second young master got up and went downstairs, Madam had someone tidy up the table, and now there were only a few slices of bread and a bottle of jam left on the table. No need, I'll just eat these. Shi Yunan didn't care at all. After all, the content of the next conversation didn't seem to be enough to eat breakfast with peace of mind. Mr. Shi took 2 glances and asked the servant to pour a glass of warm milk for Shi Yunan for the first time ever. Just before the warmth fermented, he brought up the old things again, Yunan, have you thought about it? After you have thought about it, let's have dinner with the Luo family in the evening. The two of us can discuss the matter of engagement. Before I even had a bite of bread, I couldn't wait to ask. Really ruined mood. As expected, Shi Yunan smiled and asked, what if I say I don't want to? Seeing that he was still singing the opposite, Mr. Shi expressed his attitude in a deep voice, you have no choice, you must listen to me about this matter. You are the son of our Shi family, and you have the blood of the Shi family in your bones. The family has raised you for so many years. You must do your best in the face of the crisis. The old man was as strong as always, and his faintly angry tone made everyone fall into silence. Only Xia Qiyu stroked the old man's back, trying to smooth out the awkward atmosphere. Grandpa, this matter can't be rushed, no matter what, we have to give Yunnan and that young Master Luo time to get to know each other. You also said that Yunnan has the blood of the Shi family in his bones. His heart is for this family, and he will definitely help the company to tide over the difficulties together. This passage is eloquent and subtle. At first glance, it seemed to appease the old man's anger, and it gave Shi Yunan time to prepare mentally, but after thinking about it, it was like putting the latter on the point of moral judgment. If Shi Yunan was unwilling to marry, and if Shi Jiachen went bankrupt, wouldn't he be the culprit in name? Shi Yunan was playing with the cutlery, and at this moment, Xia Qiyu had a real feeling in a dream. In dealing with people, there is no leakage, but he secretly plays people in the palm of his hand. Xia Wei was ready to clear her throat and immediately joined the persuasion camp. Yunnan, listen to me, that young Master Luo is only 1 year older than you. Isn't it very popular among young people to fall in love after marriage? It doesn't matter if you don't know each other now. You will become familiar with each other when you meet more often, and your relationship will be able to work out. This Luo family can be regarded as a top wealthy family in the whole country. If you enter the Luo family, you will definitely enjoy it. Take 10,000 steps back and say that if you really feel inappropriate in the future, you can negotiate a peaceful divorce if you have the ability, right? After finishing speaking, Xia Wei did not forget to use her elbow to point at the silent husband beside her. Shi Sheng took a sip of water and said in a muffled voice, well, according to the matchmaker's order, the matter is settled. Are you done? It's my turn to talk. Shi Yunan raised his eyebrows and took the family's faces into his eyes. One is tough and angry, one is pretending to be mild, one is fanning the flames, and one is dull and persecuting. This is not a family, and it is really impossible to enter a family. He couldn't help it, and laughed sarcastically. Xia Wei blurted out dissatisfaction, what are you laughing at? In the next second, Shi Yunan's eyes locked on her, Aunt Xia, you said that I went to Luo's house to enjoy the blessing, then I will give this blessing to your own son, do you want it? Shi Yunan has a pair of beautiful almond eyes. Originally, this type of eyes is the easiest to look innocent, but there is an inexplicable wildness in his eyes. It's like a sly fox pretending to be good, grinning when dealing with people, and can jump up and bite at any time. Xia Wei was taken aback by his straight eyes, and subconsciously explained it for her child, what does this have to do with Xiaoyu? Why doesn't it matter? Shi Yunan raised the corner of his mouth and glanced at Xia Qiyu, although you are not the blood of the Shi family, you have been raised by you as the third young master for so many years. Since it is said that love first and then love, it's not the same who gets married. It's all about exchanging children's happiness for money, of course you can contribute. If the plot of the original book in the dream is true, then Xia Qiyu and the young master of the Luo family will know each other sooner or later. Using Xia Wei's original words to fight back, and every sentence with thorns, Shi Yunan blocked the former speechless like a series of slaps. Mr. Shi frowned and expressed his dissatisfaction, Yunan, have you had enough trouble? Noisy. Shi Yunan picked up the cutlery and tapped the glass, his smile became more and more interesting, not very much. He leaned back and put on a reasonable attitude, Grandpa, Dad, even if I have been thrown abroad by you all the year round, but you are right, I am the blood of the Shi family. The second young master of the Shi family. Although, he doesn't want this ridiculous identity. Xie Qiyu is just the child of Aunt Xie and her ex-husband. Shut up for me. Yunnan. Don't lose your senses. Mr. Shi and Father Shi stopped drinking at the same time, but Shi Yunnan was about to finish speaking. He smashed the bread fork in his hand on the plate and sneered and threw out, "I don't care about my own blood, but I love other people's children." What? Xie Qiyu is also the root of your Shi family. The last sentence was deliberately turned up, and it smashed the entire restaurant into silence like a bombshell. Xie Ke frowned uncontrollably. He had no idea that Shi Yunnan's temper was so wild, that he dared to tear his face with this big family in public. Originally, he was just watching a play quietly and passing the rounds, but he was forced into the water at this moment. Shi Sheng and Xie Wei glanced at each other, their faces swelled, as if they had been punctured by something. Mr. Shi took 2 breaths in silence, and answered irrelevantly, "So what? What if it's not? Don't think about changing the subject, you must end this marriage for me." Shi Yunnan took their reactions into his eyes, and the original fog-like confusion was completely clear. This temptation, the plot in the dream actually really matches the reality. Xie Qiyu is the blood of the Shi family, and it is possible that Shi Sheng cheated during the marriage. The old man knew this, and only agreed to let Xie Wei enter the Shi family back then, and he has secretly cultivated Xie Qiyu as his successor over the years. In the end, he willingly handed Shi's assets to Xie Qiyu. Up to now, Shi Yunnan didn't want to explore the reason why they hid the truth of Xie Qiyu's identity, but was filled with anger. His biological mother, Wen Min, was a well-known lady, and the Shi and Wen families had some sort of marriage in them. Wen Min's heart is not very good, and she was advised by the doctor to have a medical abortion when she was pregnant with twins, but she loves her husband so much that she can't bear the 2 little lives in her belly. After giving birth to twins through hardships, Wen Min was completely infected with the root of the disease, and later died of a heart attack. But now it seems that what Shi Sheng has done? She cheated during her pregnancy, sent Shi Yunnan out of the country after her death, brought in her cheating partner and extramarital son, and now she is trying to use him for money to fill the hole. Absurd. Ridiculous. Originally, Shi Yunnan didn't dare to think deeply because he still had the last shreds of expectations for this family, but now there is nothing left. It's none of my business who gets married in this marriage. Shi Yunnan sneered, got up abruptly and walked out, not even planning to ask for a suitcase. How can Mr. Shi, who has been tough for most of his life, allow someone in this family to be disobedient? He roared angrily, "Shi Yunnan! Are you going to rebel? Someone has tied him up for me, and I won't even want to step out of this house until I get engaged." As soon as the voice fell, the guard ran in, "Old man, sir, someone from the Luo family is here." Shi Sheng heard the words and hurriedly asked, "The Luo family? Who is here?" The doorman was in a hurry, and he didn't even catch his breath. "Wei, the leader is a man in a wheelchair, we didn't dare to stop them, they're almost here." "Lock? Is the leader still in a wheelchair?" Shi Sheng realized something in an instant, and looked at Mr. Shi in shock. "Is it Luo Lingsheng? Who else in the Luo family needs to rely on a wheelchair to get around?" Mr. Shi's anger was frozen on his face, and his eagle-like eyes rarely floated in panic. "For no reason, how did you attract this great Buddha?" He patted the table as a warning, "Hurry up and go to the door with me to meet him." Shi Yunnan was a little far away, unable to hear their conversation clearly, and walked towards the door on his own. Who cares who he is? He was disgusted with the word Luo now, and just took advantage of this messy time to slip out. Shi Yunnan left the house with this idea, but when he pushed the door, he ran into a group of people, which happened to block his way. Shi Yunnan suddenly braked on the spot, his eyes dropped at a distance of only 30 centimeters from him. A man was staring at him leisurely in a wheelchair. The other party was in his early 30s at most, and the pure black suit made his temperament cold and outrageous. From the gold frame to the watch to the whole body, without exception, it was not a luxury. His looks are too good looking, and the tall and straight figure hidden under the clothes can even be seen. Even sitting in a wheelchair didn't reduce his temperament. Against the background of the four subordinates behind him, he gave people the aura of a commander who was not angry and arrogant. Shi Yunan just looked at it like this, suddenly unable to walk. In fact, he likes men. He has lived abroad for so many years. Although he has not put in practice on the road of love, he has met many men. To be honest, the appearance and figure of the person in front of him can really be called a celestial dish, and even those long legs that have to rely on a wheelchair are dancing wildly on Shi Yunan's aesthetic point. Gee! If I had known that I would not break just now, I might have fallen into his arms. Shi Yunan came up with an out-of-tune idea, and most of the anger in his heart dissipated. It's true that looking at handsome guys can make people feel better. The man looked at Shi Yunan blankly. He put one hand on the wheelchair frame and rubbed his fingers like a work of art. In the next second, Assistant Sven coughed suddenly. May I ask if it's second young master Shi? This reminder is too obvious. Shi Yunan withdrew his increasingly irritating gaze, and before he could respond, there was a sound of footsteps behind him. Mr. Shi walked up with the whole family, and bent over actively. Mr. Luo, I didn't expect you to come here suddenly, and you will be welcome. What the is this guy up to? Can you actually make the old man lower his posture and say hello? Shi Yunan's expression changed slightly, and his exploratory gaze fell back to the man. Who are you? Yunan, this is Luo Lingsheng, Mr. Luo. Shi Sheng hurriedly stopped, for fear that Shi Yunan would offend the person in front of him without paying attention. Don't be rude. To say that no one in the entire imperial capital does not know Luo Lingsheng, he is the youngest head of the Luo family in history. 3 years ago, he successfully ascended the throne in the cruel power struggle of the Luo family, and his resolute means turned the entire Luo family and the imperial capital circle upside down. The capital behind him and his ruthless ways of doing things make countless enterprise groups fearful, and chain freight companies like Shi's family are not worth mentioning in front of each other. Shi Yunan was interrupted by someone, and he twitched the corners of his mouth indifferently. Having stayed abroad for a long time, he didn't even know the turmoil of these giants, let alone how frightening Luo Lingsheng was. He only knew that the time and place for the two of them to meet were wrong, otherwise he would have squatted down and said hi. Mr. Shi took a half step forward. Mr. Luo brought someone here early in the morning. I don't know what instructions you have. It's an urgent matter. Luo Lingsheng said, his voice as deep as a drum easily hitting people's hearts. Xie Qiyu stood at the end and looked at it, a glimmer of light in his eyes unconsciously. Grandpa, please invite Mr. Luo into the hall first. I will make you a cup of tea. You can sit down and talk about anything. This speaks level. Not only did he miss the distinguished guest in front of him, but he also reminded Mr. Shi and others who were not well entertained, and did not forget to show his existence. Shi Sheng nodded hastily. Xiao Yu is right, Luo. Don't be polite, I don't have the spare time to drink tea. Luo Lingsheng refused, not even giving Xie Qiyu an extra look. Xie Qiyu was completely ignored for the first time in normal times, and was awkwardly stuck in place. Shi Yunan saw this scene in his eyes, changed a leisurely attitude and leaned against the door, and left in no hurry. Just in time, Luo Lingsheng met his eyes that were pondering eating melons, and said loudly, I heard that second young master Shi has returned to China. I came to the door in person today to propose marriage on behalf of the Luo family. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the Shi family changed their expressions. You must know that the Luo family has a deep and huge foundation, and there are countless interest disputes involved in the secret. The one who was going to marry the Shi family was only a side branch of the Luo family. Logically, Luo Lingsheng, the master of the family, would not be disturbed. But at this moment, as Luo Lingsheng came to propose marriage in person, which one is this singing about? This matter is about to spread, and their Shi family will be looked down upon by how many people? How much more secret criticism and targeting? Mr. Shi is a shrewd egoist. He not only hopes to have a little relationship with the Luo family's side, so that he can survive the company's asset crisis, but on the other hand, he does not want to be involved in the center of the vortex headed by Luo Lingsheng. He hesitated a little in his heart, trying to delay the time. Mr. Luo, Yunnan has just returned to China, and he has to think about it again. Consideration? Who said I should consider it? Shi Yunnan quickly retorted, with a profound smile. He completely understood that the entire Shi family might not be able to withstand Luo Lingshen's power. The other party came to the door unexpectedly, and the confused Mr. Shi was afraid of getting burned, so he changed his previous attitude of forcing marriage. But Shi Yunnan is not a tool person who can be pushed around by the other party. Since the singing style has been changed in this play, then he, the protagonist, must perform well. Since Mr. Luo came to propose marriage on behalf of the Luo family, let me ask one more question, are you proposing for that young Master Luo? Shi Yunnan's eyes were fixed on Luo Lingshen's face, and he leaned over and approached with a smile, or did you mention it for yourself? Mr. Luo's answer is different, and the result of my consideration is also different. In the second half of the sentence, Shi Yunnan's upward ending sound seemed to have a small hook, and it fell into other people's ears as a naked molestation. The audience was so silent that you could hear a pin drop. The entire Shi family panicked, and even the subordinates who accompanied Luo Lingsheng were stunned. Damn, this second young Master Shi is too wild. How dare you ask the owner if he proposes a marriage for him? Is this too long? Or did the joke hit the tiger in the head in a stupid way? Everyone was ready for Luo Lingshen's black face, but he just asked calmly, what's the difference between the two answers? If you are proposing for that young Master Luo, then I'm sorry, you have to go as far as you want. The last 6 words are another stealth bomb. How dare you let Luo Lingsheng roll? Is this a deliberate attempt to bring the entire Shi family to be buried with you? Mr. Shi was so excited by this conversation that he was about to have a heart attack. Shi Yunnan. What nonsense are you talking about? Hurry up and apologize to Mr. Luo. When Shi Yunnan heard the panicked rebuke of the old man, he hooked his lips in triumph, and a long-lost pleasure flooded his heart. It seems that power is really a good thing, and when one is tall, people can bow their heads, panic and fear. Didn't he force him to marry the Luo family? Didn't you insist on letting him be obedient? Although he could not be 100% sure whether the dream was true or not, he still remembered that if he escaped from the marriage of the Luo family this time, it would only be a turning point in his unfortunate life. Okay, then he'll play a different game. Luo Lingsheng caught the sarcasm in his smile, and the sharp eyes hidden under the lens seemed to understand everything. What if it was me who proposed marriage? Luo Lingsheng didn't get angry in public, but continued following Shi Yunnan's topic. Xie Qiyu, who was standing at the end, saw that the development was completely out of expectation, and finally changed his face. The young master of the Luo family is a playful boy, but Luo Lingsheng is the head of a powerful family, and the chain of interests behind this is very different. When Shi Yunnan married young Master Luo, he was forced to sacrifice his own happiness. But what does he have to do with Luo Lingsheng? That is, one step to the sky, and even his status in the Shi family will rise with the tide. Seeing her son's expression, Xie Wei clearly understood the stakes. Yunnan, Aunt Xie knows that you play crazy abroad on weekdays. You haven't played enough at this age and don't want to get married, but how can your young master's temper be so good? Losing in front of Mr. Luo? Be obedient, you can't lose your senses. These words sounded like hard-hearted persuasion, but in fact, in the connotation of yin and yang weirdness, Luo Lingsheng wished that Luo Lingsheng could see his nature clearly, and disgusted him to the bottom of the cliff. Die of laughter. Sure enough, when people are in a hurry, the rank of speaking will decrease accordingly. Shi Yunnan straightened up and turned back. What's the relationship between me and you? Where is your turn to teach me? you. Xie Wei also tried to speak, but caught Luo Lingshen's gaze unexpectedly. The man took off his glasses slowly, revealing an even colder look under the lenses. I don't even think he's making a fool of yourself. In a word, the possibility of Shi's family's opening to block was completely ended. Luo Lingsheng resolved these noises, and then raised his eyes to look at Shi Yunan, repeating for the first time, "Second young master Shi, you haven't answered me yet. If I propose marriage, is it worthy of me?" When their eyes met, Shi Yunan suddenly felt a strange and subtle cooperation. No matter what purpose Luo Lingsheng followed him, he was secretly helping him at the moment, blocking the mouths of the Shi family, and allowing him to leave this cannibalistic home logically. Certainly worthy. Shi Yunan's eyes were bright like a successful little fox. This stage has already been set up here, what a pity not to continue the performance. He squatted down for Luo Lingsheng again, his tone and demeanor had some familiar intimacy. Has the wedding banquet time been set? Husband, the words are not surprising and die endlessly. The audience was shocked by Shi Yunan's name, and Luo Lingshen's subordinates were almost dreaming wedding reception. Husband? This second young master Shi really dares to think about it. Dare to shout too. Why is the owner of the house uncharacteristically not losing his temper today? If it were normal, those people with dirty minds would be finished long ago. Mr. Shi also showed an indescribably complicated expression. His grandson, who was the least valued by him, actually had a relationship with the head of the Luo family? This is outrageous too. Luo Lingsheng did not speak, and no one dared to take the time. The dead silence continued to spread. Shi Yunan blinked, with a hint of urging hidden in his smile. Hey! Luo Lingsheng stared at the smiling face of the person in front of him, rubbed his fingertips for a moment, and decided to give an answer. Why not, just tonight? The author has something to say. Number acting irritating South little fox. Hi! Husband. Number a certain homeowner looks as stable as an old dog, but in fact, his heart is so dark that he begins to dance with his legs. No, I'm just talking nonsense. Seeing this joke-like marriage come true, Xie Wei suddenly jumped out again. How can this work? It's too playful. Children's play? Didn't you insist on asking me to enter Luo's door? Shi Yunan stood up, only bright ridicule in his eyes. I didn't agree at first, but Aunt Xie was the one who persuaded you the most. Now I nod and agree, but you are scrambling to block 3 and 4 for me? What? Already? After the confirmation at the dining table just now, Shi Yunan was extremely disgusted with this family member, and he was ruthless when he spoke at this moment. The secret in Xie Wei's heart was bluntly pierced, and she stomped on the spot with embarrassment. Yunan, that's not what my mother meant, don't get me wrong. Xie Qiyu stood up to defend his mother, and then turned his attention to the elders in the family to point out the key. It's just that this Luo family is not the other Luo family, isn't it inappropriate? In terms of seniority, the young master of the Luo family had to call Luo Lingsheng a little uncle. Mr. Shi, who had been silent for a long time, finally spoke up. Mr. Luo, our Shi family has already agreed with second master Luo and the others about the marriage of our 2 children. It's hard for us to deal with it if you spread it out. Luo Lingsheng intervened temporarily, which was originally against the rules. The most important thing is that Shi Yunan and the young master of the Luo family are married, and the Shi family dares to ask for some commercial interests. Now that this object has been replaced by Luo Lingsheng, unless the latter is willing, who would dare to bite the bullet and beg him? The 2 of you didn't send out invitations, and you didn't hold an engagement banquet. If you don't make a fuss, where can this matter go? Luo Lingsheng raised his eyes, and there was absolute repression in his words. Even if it spreads out, who would dare to talk about my Luo Lingshen's private affairs? Shi Yunan stared at Luo Lingsheng with interest, and felt more and more that the man had an appetite for him. Grandpa, Mr. Luo and I are consensual now. It's a happy event. It's not ashamed. The tone of the last 3 characters is like a wave. Mr. Shi was angry. You. I can naturally explain it to the second room, so I don't have to bother with Lao Shi. Luo Lingsheng put on his gold-rimmed glasses to stop the endless obstruction. His fingertips tapped on the wheelchair handle. Qin Jian. Patriarch, I understand. The nearest assistant Sven responded, and quickly gave way to both sides. Luo Lingsheng turned on his wheelchair and glanced at Shi Yunan. Are you going? Second young master Shi. Of course. Shi Yunan answered simply, and left the house with him without looking back. Mr. Shi looked at the backs of the two who were walking away, and for the first time felt uneasy for a long time. Shi Yunan's relationship with this family has not been deep. Even if he has a relationship with Luo Lingsheng, a recognized big man in the imperial capital, it is not necessarily that the whole Shi family will follow him to the sky. Instead, he was afraid that the wild Shi Yunan would become a variable for the Shi family in the future. Master Shi. Assistant Qin Jian handed over a thick red book and nodded. Since it's made it clear that it's a marriage proposal, please accept a little bit of my family's thoughts. Grandpa Shi didn't expect Luo Lingsheng to prepare these, so he motioned to Shi Sheng to take it. Thank you, Mr. Luo. There's no need to rush to thank you. Qin Jian raised her hand to stop her, smiling politely. The owner's meaning is, can this betrothal gift be used, how to use it? Should I say something, and how to say it? Mr. Shi knows what to do. Qin Jian used to hold his heart for 2 seconds, otherwise, if the owner's dowry can be given out, he can also get it back from the Shi family company in a different way. Mr. Shi's expression stiffened. Understood, please rest assured Mr. Luo. Qin Jian nodded politely and turned to leave. Xie Wei waited for him to walk away, and then patted his chest. It's just a young assistant next to Luo Lingsheng, who can actually put on such an imposing manner to bluff people. Do you really think our Shi family is easy to bully? Just you have a mouth? Is that enough? Mr. Shi glared at him fiercely, and the anger accumulated in his heart finally burst out in front of his own family. Look at the bad idea you came up with. What did you say to let the Shi Luo family get married in order to get some commercial benefits? It's all right now. You have provoked the Luo family who shouldn't be provoked. You haven't understood that. What do you mean by assistant? From now on, Luo Lingsheng will send someone to watch the Shi family's every move. This betrothal gift is simply an untouchable hot potato. It's a bomb that will be lit from time to time. If the Shi family dares to use this marriage to make trouble, he will be able to crush the Shi family with 1 foot. This time, it was completely shooting himself in the foot. The more Mr. Shi thought about it, the more angry he became, but he was reluctant to admit his fault in this matter. Xie Wei, don't think I don't know what you stupid woman has in mind. The young master of the Luo family is a scumbag. If Shi Yunan married him, he would have nothing to do with the so-called blessing. You're a little girl who can't get on the stage. If it wasn't for the fact that you taught a good son, where would it be your turn to sit in this lady's position? The scolding was so loud that even the servants hiding in the room could hear it clearly. Xie Wei's whole face was blue and white, and she could not wait to find a hole to dig into. It was not until Mr. Shi and her husband left one after another that she couldn't bear to complain. Bah, that Wen Min is a famous lady, but it's a pity that she has been dead for nearly 20 years, and there are not even ashes left. Xie Qiyu frowned. Mom! Don't say anything. I just can't get angry. Xie Wei leaned closer and asked uneasy, Son, this Shi Yunan suddenly climbed the high branch, what should we do? Xie Qiyu's eyes changed for a moment, and after a while he replied stubbornly, What are you worried about? It's better to rely on yourself than anyone else. Grandpa just scolded you in anger, but didn't drive you out of the house. Take 10,000 steps back and say, even if you leave Shi's house now, are you still afraid that I won't be able to support you? Xie Wei was a little proud after hearing this. That's it. She gave birth to a precious son in her life, and she has been a genius since she was a child. Xie Qiyu's vision is very vicious. He secretly made money in a different way when he was in college. He hides his front in front of Mr. Shi. In fact, his secret assets should not be underestimated. Whereas Shi Yunan's kind of who eats, drinks and plays all day can compare. The car drove out of Shi's area. Shi Yunan smiled briskly, and then said to Luo Lingsheng who was beside him, "Thank you Mr. Luo for your cooperation just now, otherwise I'll have to spend a while with the old man." His eyes drifted out of the car window, and he said to Qin Jian who was driving, "Assistant brother, you can pull over and stop at will and let me get out of the car." Qin Jian glanced at Luo Lingsheng in the rear-view mirror, "Stop. Don't stop, drive home." "Yes, master." When Shi Yunan heard the conversation between the two, his smile froze. "Mr. Luo." Luo Lingsheng met his dazed gaze and said, "Second Master Shi may have misunderstood, Luo Mao just proposed to you in earnest." Shi Yunan really reacted for 2 seconds. In addition to being surprised, he was also a little puzzled. "If I remember correctly, this is the first time we two meet. Although there is love at first sight in this world, but love at first sight leads to a flash marriage on the day? Mr. Luo doesn't seem like this kind of emotional person." Shi Yunan leaned on the seat and stared at Luo Lingsheng, and when he stared at it, there was a little more joke. "However, if we really know each other for an hour and get married, who will lose and who will gain?" To tell the truth, Luo Lingsheng has a handsome face that can be eaten by both men and women. It's just that Shi Yunan was speechless, but he was clear in his heart. There is no such thing as a pie in the sky, let alone a golden pie with such high value as Luo Lingsheng. A careless pie becomes a trap. Facing Shi Yunan's scrutiny, Luo Lingsheng chose to cut to the chase. "I need a partner who is suitable to be open to the public. Since second young master Shi has hit the door himself, acting as a first-class talent, why don't you consider working with me? Mr. Luo means that we have a flash marriage contract. Well, it's up to you to do things with money and pay you. I won't do anything to you during the contract marriage, and I won't be short of you for food and clothing." "Really?" Shi Yunan chuckled, neither objecting nor agreeing. "But now this car is driving non-stop to Luo's house." "I don't know, I thought that Mr. Luo was playing broke and snatch." "You can refuse." Luo Lingsheng replied, his eyes glanced slightly, "It's just that the second young master left the Shi family empty-handed. Where did he originally plan to go?" After Shi Yunan reminded him, he came back to his senses later. Oops! He was too angry earlier, and the documents and luggage were still kept at Shi's house, and it was easy to be restrained when traveling without an ID card. But he finally came out of Shi's house, and he didn't want to go back to find it. Luo Lingsheng guessed 100% of his thoughts. "I will let someone pick it up for you that fell into Shi's house. Before that, second young master Shi, why don't you go back to Luo's house with me? I can give you time to think about it. Whether you leave or cooperate in the end, it's up to you to decide." These words are so eloquent that people can't find a point of rejection at all. No wonder even Master Shi had to give 3 points. In addition to his power and status, Luo Lingsheng's mind was also very powerful. Seeing this, Shi Yunan accepted it calmly. "Okay, how long will it take to get to Luo's house?" "About half an hour." Qin Jian in the front row replied, "Second Master Shi only returned to China yesterday? If the time difference is not reversed, you can sleep for a while." Shi Yunan responded in a low voice. He really didn't sleep well last night, but it wasn't because of the jet lag, but because of that vivid original dream. Are you just a supporting role who lives in the book and ends tragically? Shi Yunan felt that it was somewhat outrageous that this went against science, but he had to take precautions now that he had undergone a round of verification. He opened the encrypted memo on his mobile phone, recorded it as he recalled it, and quickly listed a series of important times, characters and plot points. Shi Yunan has his own arrogance, and he can't do it to flatter Xie Qiyu in order to change his life. Of course, he didn't intend to rashly target it like the original book, and he had to wait and see. A good memory is not as good as a bad writing. Since the choice is true, it is always safer to master some details of the dream. However, as he wrote, Shi Yunan discovered a node that he had previously overlooked. The Luo Lingsheng sitting beside him was actually one of the characters in the later period of the original book. As the head of the Luo family, the other party has enormous power, and the group under him spans countless industrial chains. Such a giant naturally attracted the attention of the original man Xie Qiyu, who tried repeatedly to get acquainted, but all ended in failure. If you don't become an ally, you will become an enemy, and if you become an enemy, you will be defeated under the aura of Xie Qiyu's protagonist. In the original book, Luo Lingshen's ending was not much better. He was framed and imprisoned by Xie Qiyu's design, and his legs that were originally inconvenient were also completely mutilated in prison. He could not survive or die. Shi Yunan took a dull breath, and his eyes fell on Luo Lingshen's legs unconsciously. The proud man who should have been in the sky fell into the quagmire. What unscrupulous writer can write such a plot? Really cruel. Shi Yunan's gaze was too direct and long. Luo Lingshen's face sank the second he noticed it. Second Master Shi, have you seen enough? Qin Jian, the assistant driving in the front row, noticed the situation, and glanced nervously at the bodyguard in the passenger seat. Luo Lingshen's legs were scars on his heart. Others should not look at it more, let alone avoid it. In the past, someone stepped on the thunder, and the end was not so miserable. Second young Master Shi, from the beginning to the present, how did he go so far as to pluck the hair on the tiger's head? Almost instantly, Shi Yunan understood that Luo Lingsheng would be wrong. If it was someone else, I'm afraid I would have explained it in a panic, but Shi Yunan was the opposite. Mr. Luo, are you left by nature? Or the day after tomorrow? Can it be cured? Perhaps because of his personality, Shi Yunan's speech always had a light smile, like the wind in late spring and early summer. It can not only cool and dry, but also warm the heart. Luo Lingsheng, with a touch of complexity, asked back, what does it have to do with you? Second young Master Shi. Why doesn't it matter? If we agree to a flash marriage, then I need to know about Mr. Luo's physical condition. Otherwise, it will be easy for others to ask questions in the future. No one dares to ask about this. Luo Lingshen's tone softened a bit, but he avoided the question. All right. Don't ask if you don't like it. Shi Yunan didn't ask any further answers. He looked at Luo Lingshen's figure and appearance, which was completely in his heart, and tutted twice. No wonder Western countries always say that God is jealous of two good men. Mr. Luo's aura of sitting is overwhelming to others. If you stand up again, no one in the whole world can compare to you. The explained rainbow fart said with a provocative mind, but it's okay if it can't be cured, I'm just worried about Mr. Luo's real other half in the future. Shi Yunan approached with a smile, and dropped the last sentence, I heard that navel oranges will struggle for a long time. The sudden rambling words changed the atmosphere in the whole car. Qin Jian, who was eavesdropping in the front row, couldn't hold back for a while, and the accelerator flew out. Luo Lingsheng completely ignored the assistant's fast speed. He took a deep breath and his eyes were deep. Second Master Shi, you. I'm used to speaking out, and I will ask Mr. Luo to take more care in the future. Shi Yunan made a steal, making no secret of his willingness to make fun of it. Luo Lingsheng caught the key words, in the future. The eyes of the two met again, and they buried their thoughts. Well, isn't Mr. Luo trying to ask me to pretend to be a marriage partner? The smile on Shi Yunan's face was still the same, but there was a trace of calm after judgment in his eyes. I agree. The author has something to say. Number, I heard that navel oranges will struggle for a long time. Number os, you will experience it yourself in the future. 5 minutes later, the car drove into Luo's manor. Shi Yunan watched the long green plants and embossed fountains on both sides, and raised his lips. It's really the style of a rich man, Mr. Luo. The land left by several generations of the family has become like this after repeated development and construction. The place is a little big, and when the time comes, let the housekeeper show you around. Luo Lingshen's answer was as low and sweet as ever. Mr. Luo is not curious about the reason why I agreed to fake marriage with you so quickly. Shi Yunan turned to look at him, and tentatively tried, what if I fell in love with Luo's monstrous family property and tried to fake it to get a piece of the pie? The wind outside the car window rolled up a strand of his hair, swaying and swaying easily, making people fascinated. Luo Lingsheng looked away, his voice inexplicably lowered. I'm not curious, this proposal was initiated by me, you can choose to accept it. As for wanting to take the Luo family's property under my nose, the second young master she has to it takes a great deal of power. After the words fell, the car stopped in front of the main house. The assistant and bodyguard in the same car got out of the car quickly, one opened the rear door, and the other placed the wheelchair. Patriarch, here we are. Well. Luo Lingsheng was obviously used to their behavior and moved from the parking space to the wheelchair. Shi Yunan watched this action with his eyes down, and raised his eyebrows with interest. Soon, an elderly housekeeper led someone out to greet him. Patriarch, you are back, is everything going well? Luo Lingsheng responded in a low voice, and cast his eyes into the car. Come down. The housekeeper followed his line of sight, only to find Shi Yunan sitting quietly in the car. A wave of fluctuations appeared in his eyes, and his tone seemed to fluctuate. Patriarch, is this the second young master Shi? Shi Yunan got out of the car and tied a small tug at his hair that had been ruffled by the wind. Then he introduced himself. Hello, my name is Shi Yunan. The reason why I'm here is because I'm love at first sight with your master and we're planning to get married. The joke in the words is especially obvious. The butler was startled. This? Well, from today, he is one of the masters of this family. Luo Lingsheng calmly announced a major event. Uncle Qin, you go down and let the servants at home pay attention. Qin Bo has seen the world, and quickly stabilized his emotions. Yes, the master. Qin Jian, you and Yuan Meng go to Shi's house again. Luo Lingsheng instructed his subordinates, and turned the question to Shi Yunan. How many things have you left? Shi Yunan shrugged indifferently. Just a packed suitcase. Qin Jian nodded, and just as he was about to turn around and get into the car, he heard Shi Yunan add, wait, there should be a group photo on the second side of the bedside table on the left, please take it for me too. There is less playfulness in the voice, and more attention. Qin Jian glanced at Luo Lingsheng and responded quickly, okay, second young master Shi. Seeing the assistant get into the car, Luo Lingsheng controlled the electric wheelchair. Come in. Yes, master. In order to match the sound of Luo Ling who was traveling in a wheelchair, a gentle was deliberately built on the side of the stairs. The housekeeper followed Luo Lingsheng with a group of people, and he did not overtake him at all. Shi Yunan stood on the spot, inexplicably having a real sense of entering a wealthy family. The reason why he agreed to cooperate with Luo Lingshen's fake marriage was completely out of consideration for the dream of the original book. It took time to determine whether something was true or false. He needed a suitable identity to allow him to stay in the country and wait for it to change. Luo Lingsheng took the initiative to give him a top status. Why should he hold back and refuse to agree? In other words, if everything he dreamed was true, then Luo Lingsheng and him could be called a victim alliance to a certain extent. If something really happened in the future, maybe the two would be able to help each other. Finally, and most importantly, how energetic is Luo Lingsheng, living under the same roof with such a handsome guy like this? Can you still have food and clothing in the name of fake marriage? Where in the world can you find such a good job? The job is not active, and there are problems in thinking. Shi Yunan was so happy. Afternoon. When Qin Jian approached the training room, Luo Lingsheng was holding a rehabilitation device to assist training. In addition, there were several instruments for monitoring values attached to his legs and body. The accompanying private medical staff was making professional records, and Uncle Chin stood on the side with trembling fear, for fear that he would fall to the ground accidentally. The veins on Luo Lingshen's forehead burst out, and the severe pain was forcibly pressed into the bottom of his eyes, with only the occasional muffled roar, which was suppressed like a beast trapped in a square inch. A lot of sweat soaked the sports vest on his body, outlining his well-maintained figure. Just looking at the smooth muscle lines of his hands, it is difficult to imagine the real condition of his body. This is the rehabilitation that Luo Lingsheng has to do every week, and the pain level of each session cannot be explained in a few words. The attending doctor motioned the nurse to push the wheelchair. "Homeowner, let's rest after the distance. I want to relax your legs." Luo Lingsheng sat down without saying a word, letting the sweat rage on his face. The simple 5-meter road took a long time and exhausted all his strength. "How's the value?" Qin Bo handed over the towel, concerned. "Compared with the last time, there is not much change," the attending doctor replied. Looking at Luo Lingshen's face, he stepped up and added 2 more words, "But it's not hopeless. Rehabilitation is a long-term battle. No retreat is the greatest progress." "Patriarch, you..." "Enough, I know," Luo Lingsheng shouted in a deep voice. He stared at his legs, shrouded in darkness. The training room quickly froze in a low pressure, and no one dared to speak at this time. I don't know how long it took before Luo Lingsheng spoke hoarsely, "That's it for today, all of you doctors and nurses will go back first." The medical staff were relieved and immediately packed up and left. Luo Lingsheng noticed Qin Jian beside him. "Have you come back from Shi's house?" "Well, there is Yuan Meng who can fight next to me." Mr. Shi and the others didn't dare to stop him. They took the things easily. They just sent it to the second young master Shi. Luo Lingsheng remembered something. "What about the group photo he asked you to take?" "2 children of the same age and a woman. I was afraid that it would involve the privacy of second young master Shi, so I didn't take a photo. It should be a photo of Mrs. Wenmin and their 2 brothers during her lifetime," Qin Bo said. Luo Lingsheng was silent for a few seconds. "Qin Jian, you have sorted out all the group documents that need my personal approval, and I will handle them at night." "Okay, I'll go get ready now." The door to the training room was closed again. Qin Bo stood with him for a while before he said earnestly, "Patriarch, are you really considering marrying second young master Shi? How could he agree so readily?" "Fake, it's just an agreement." Uncle Qin's expression became complicated for a moment. "Patriarch, why are you so troubled? He knows you." Luo Lingsheng stopped the housekeeper's unfinished words. "He doesn't know, and he doesn't need to know." The atmosphere condensed for a moment. Luo Lingsheng wiped his sweat with a towel, covering the anger in his eyes. "Uncle Qin, you don't need to treat me as a good person. I can't get it, and I don't like others getting it. What I want, I have to tie it to my side. Even if it's just an agreement, it's better than nothing from beginning to end. What about the others? I've been resting in the guest bedroom after lunch, and I haven't come out. Second young master Shi's ability to adapt is very strong. I was thrown abroad by the Shi family like trash since I was a child." Luo Lingsheng froze in a low voice, and threw the towel in his hand into the basket unhappy. "I'll take a shower, you can call him. If you have enough rest, come with us at 4 o'clock in the afternoon." "Clear." Shi Yunan had just woken up when the door rang. The exhaustion and the upside-down jet lag after the dream last night were all back on track at this moment. He readily accepted the housekeeper's invitation to go out, and after a brief wash, he changed into a set of clothes and went out. It was the same car that morning, and Luo Lingsheng was already sitting in the parking space. The man changed his clothes, and the dark blue thin shirt looked very abstinent. Shi Yunan looked down at his clothes, which were also ink-splashed prints with a dark blue base, and immediately rejoiced. "Mr. Luo, I didn't expect that we would be wearing the same color couple's clothes. It's tacit enough." Shi Yunan tapped his earlobe again. By the way, here's. Luo Lingsheng looked at his fingertips, and it was a dark blue earring. The other party seemed to like the floral lining very much, and the neckline was loosely loosened, occasionally revealing the delicate skin and delicate collarbone hidden under the cloth with the movements. The excessively long hair was slightly curled and drooping, and he wore earphones that were rarely worn by ordinary men. Nail. The clothes are very consistent with their daily words and deeds, and they are wild to attract attention. Luo Lingsheng pushed the frame of the mirror without changing his face, and then ordered, Yuan Meng, drive. Yes, master. Shi Yunan looked in the front row. Assistant Qin Jian was not there, the bodyguard who was in the co-pilot was driving now, and it was the housekeeper's turn to sit by the side. Where are we going? Shi Yunan wasn't nervous at all. Mr. Luo didn't really prepare an engagement dinner, right? Then I'm too casually dressed. No. Luo Lingshen's answer didn't reveal a trace of water. You'll know when you arrive. Okay, as a qualified marriage partner, I am Mr. Luo's person now, and I must listen to you obediently. He is very professional when he takes up the post and enters the play. If he is pretending to flirt, he will come. Luo Lingsheng glanced at him briefly, and a subtle smile flashed across his eyes. Okay. It's pretty good looking. Half an hour later, the car stopped at an international elite kindergarten. Looking at the row, luxury cars are everywhere. Luo Lingsheng sat in the car and didn't move, but asked the housekeeper Qin Bo to take Shi Yunan out of the car. The entrance inspection was very strict, and the two of them had to do a series of registration before they were let in. Shi Yunan followed behind the housekeeper, and let him lead him to the destination with ease. Second Master Shi, here we are. We haven't arrived at the summer camp's closing time yet, we'll wait. The two were separated by a floor-to-ceiling glass window. In the playground game area inside, a bunch of 5 or 6-year-old children were playing together. Who shall we pick up? Shi Yunan frowned. Mr. Luo has a child. It's his little nephew. Qin Bo saw that Shi Yunan had misunderstood, and pointed out the explanation. Look, hold the book there. Shi Yunan's brows eased for a moment, and he followed Uncle Qin's line of sight. At the outermost edge of the game area, a young man in uniform sat on a small wooden chair with curly hair. Holding an English storybook bigger than his face, he read it very seriously. This young adult looks out of tune with the playful peers around him. Shi Yunan let out a low laugh unconsciously, then changed his mind and asked, where are his parents? Why didn't he come to pick him up? Qin Bo took a deep breath, dead. Shi Yunan frowned in surprise. Qin Bo observed his expression from the blurred reflection of the glass window, and whispered about the past. 4 years ago, there was a car accident, in which 4 were killed and 1 injured. The old lady and the lady died on the spot, and the eldest lady and uncle could not be rescued. What Shi Yunan thought of, the one injury is Mr. Luo, then his legs. Yes, I saved my life, but the leg injury is too serious. Uncle Qin shook his head bitterly. Shi Yunan asked, accident? Or man-made? It's human. Uncle Qin didn't hide it from him, and said in a low voice while waiting for a moment, Master Luo died of a heart attack, and his children and grandchildren are unavoidable to fight for the family property. Mr. Luo is the former head of the Luo family and the grandfather of Luo Lingsheng. I lived to the age of 97, and I was unwilling to move the power in my hands until I died. Shi Yunan snorted disapprovingly, for your life and death? The position of the head of the Luo family is a match for the ancient throne. No, the master and his wife were not people who liked to fight for power before they were born. They knew that after the death of Mr. Luo, there was no way to fight openly and secretly, so they wanted to travel abroad to avoid the limelight, but they were counted by the big house on the way to the airport. Mr. Luo has been a majestic all his life. He has married 2 wives before and after, and has 3 sons and 1 daughter under his knees. Luo Lingshen's father was an old son born to Su Xian, so he was especially favored by the old man Luo. I thought that if I withdraw from the power struggle, I can live in peace, but in the end, it still can't resist people's calculations. It's true that good people are not rewarded. It is also true that power will blind all conscience and affection. The young master was lucky enough to save his life in a car accident, but who can ignore the hatred of his family being calculated to die? I watched him fall deeper and deeper and his behavior became more and more ruthless. Butler Qin is in his 50s this year. When he was young, he followed Luo Lingshen's father. It can be said that he watched Luo Lingsheng from birth to growth. He was distressed that Luo Lingsheng was getting deeper and deeper into the vortex of power struggle, but he also understood that things could not be turned back. In such a top giant, if there is no competition, it will only be calculated even worse. Finally, Luo Lingsheng became the youngest head of the Luo family in history, and his relatives all got their own way. The whole family in the first room was imprisoned, the third room was designed to go bankrupt, and only the second room, who had helped in the funeral of the old man and his wife, and was willing to be a tortoise in everything, found a place in the group. After Shi Yunan had a general understanding of the cause and effect, he showed admiration. It's good. What? I said, Luo Lingsheng is very good. When others do not provoke him, he can let go of power, fame, and fortune, and he is transparent and hidden. When others hurt him, he could turn himself into a long spear and a sharp sword, and in the cannibalistic arena of power, he would kill an opponent without leaving behind, and once occupied the commanding heights. Ruthless? Shi Yunan didn't think so, smiled. How could he still feel such a happy life? Uncle Qin observed his expression secretly, and asked for his owner, do you think the owner's approach is appropriate? It's right, and he didn't do anything wrong. Shi Yunan's rainbow fart came as he said, being able to turn around in adversity shows that Mr. Luo's ability to control the situation is far superior to everyone else. He paused to recall Luo Lingshen's appearance, and smiled even more. What's more, he is extraordinarily good-looking. Just in time, the school bell rang. Shi Yunan looked at the little boy who was obediently looking for the teacher to line up for school. What's his name? The family calls him Little Goldfish, and his real name is Luo Jinyu. It's a cute nickname. Shi Yunan smiled and asked casually, the child's last name with Luo's family? Where are his grandparents? The head of the family persuaded the second elder of the in-laws to take over the young master very early to raise him. The Luo family is powerful, and now Luo Lingsheng is in charge, who doesn't want to send their children to a higher place. As for the surname change, it was also the result of Luo Lingshen's initiative to exchange benefits. Uncle Qin said, second young master, wait here for a while, I will pick up the young master. Good. Shi Yunan stood there for a while, and saw Uncle Qin led the little goldfish out. Taking a closer look, Luo Jinyu's face was chubby, with a little milk fat. He was wearing a little yellow hat equipped with a kindergarten, and several strands of dull hair floated out, giving him a cute look. Little master, come here, Grandpa Qin will show you someone. Uncle Qin looked at Shi Yunan, and suddenly became a little confused about what to call him. The patriarch and the second young master Shi are still verbally marriage agreement for the time being. Shi Yunan felt that the child was very interesting, and took the initiative to bend down and squeeze his little milk fat. Little goldfish, when we first met, call me Brother Sheng and buy you candy. No. The little goldfish refused with a stern face, and walked outside with a small school bag on his back. Shi Yunan shrunk on the child rarely, and stood up dumbfounded. The two walked out with the little goldfish, and Uncle Qin explained in a low voice, Second Master Shi, don't be surprised, the little goldfish grew up beside the owner of the house, so his temperament is more mature than normal children. Shi Yunan didn't take this to heart at all, and hummed, I see, it must be Luo Lingsheng, the uncle who keeps his face straight all day long. He is a child who imitates and becomes a little adult. Qin Bo smiled and did not refute. It is said that the nephew is like an uncle, but now this young master is a replica of the owner of the family when he was a child. The car is still parked in the old place. The little goldfish walking at the front kicked on his short legs, trying to get on the car. Seeing this, Shi Yunan approached and grabbed his collar and mentioned it, "Go, go up." The little goldfish who suddenly flew into the air was dumbfounded. Luo Lingsheng, who was about to reach out to hold the baby, was also stunned for half a second, and a hint of helplessness flickered in his eyes. "Second Master Shi, how can you carry the baby like that?" "I don't know, I thought it was pulling the back of the little milk cat's neck." Shi Yunan shrugged, "I'm sorry, I'm inexperienced, it's just easy." The little goldfish climbed into the child safety seat in the back row, blushing slightly. "Uncle, is he your friend?" When Shi Yunan heard the words, he raised his eyebrows and pondered, "More than just friends. Next, you have to play the boyfriend, or even the other half." Just as he was about to tease the child again, he saw Luo Lingsheng turn around and instructed word by word, "It's family, he will live with us in the future." Family? When Shi Yunan heard this long-lost and somewhat unfamiliar name, a smile suddenly condensed on the corner of his mouth. He lowered his eyes to cover it up, his hands hidden in his trouser pockets unknowingly huddled together. "Why didn't you get in the car?" Luo Lingsheng asked. Shi Yunan raised his head quickly, the corners of his mouth turned up again. "I didn't expect Mr. Luo to enter the play faster than me. This is the first day we know each other, and we can call them family." Luo Lingsheng was silent, and looked at Shi Yunan for a moment. The other party just stood beside the car door and smiled at him. No matter how well he concealed it, there was still a trace of loneliness and astonishment in his smile. Luo Lingsheng pretended not to notice and looked away, and called out his full name for the first time, "Shi Yunan." "Okay. Get in the car, go home." 6 words, like a spell. Shi Yunan couldn't help laughing out loud, and suddenly felt very enjoyable. Pies will occasionally fall from the sky, but no, he picked up a very talkative marriage partner for nothing. The reason Luo Lingshen's engagement dinner at Shijiaying could not be carried out is very simple. Although the two have verbally agreed on a flash marriage, they haven't really reached this stage yet. In addition, the time is too rushed, and it is easy to appear fake in the eyes of outsiders. After going back and forth, the two reached a consensus invisibly, and moved this matter back for the time being. Dinner is arranged at home. The little goldfish scooped his fish custard indiscriminately, and couldn't help but glance at Shi Yunan. Shi Yunan looked at him for a while with his small eyes, and poked, "Little goldfish, do you think I'm very good looking? So you like me very much?" The last 5 words, biting hard and slowly, are obviously deliberately teasing the child. "I didn't." The little goldfish blushed inexplicably, and hurriedly buried his head and pulled the fish soup in the bowl, pretending that nothing happened. Shi Yunan stared at his bulging little milk fat, and tried his best not to laugh. He understood it. This little goldfish was pretending to be a mature child, and he was a curious baby at heart. Uncle Qin suddenly expressed concern, "Master Shi, is the food unpalatable? I don't think you used your chopsticks very much." Shi Yunan shook his head, "No, I have a small appetite." Luo Lingsheng, who was sitting in the main seat, suddenly asked, "Uncle Qin, is there any fish soup in the kitchen?" Uncle Qin replied, "Yes, the young master likes to eat fish. I specially asked the servant to prepare more." Luo Lingsheng nodded, "Give Master Shi a bowl." Shi Yunan's eyes lit up subconsciously, but he refused to admit it. "No, what do children eat for me?" Luo Lingsheng looked at him, and his eyes hidden under the mirror became more interesting. "Really? I see you staring at Jinyu's fish soup and you're almost greedy." Shi Yunan rarely felt the embarrassment of being seen through, and coughed in a guilty conscience. Uncle Qin smiled and turned around quickly to prepare to go. Soon, a bowl of fragrant fish egg custard was placed in front of Shi Yunan. The steamed fish meat has the fish bones removed, mashed, and then stirred into the egg liquid with water and steamed for a second time, and finally drizzled with a little sesame oil. The fragrance is outrageous. When Shi Yunan was a child, he liked to eat fish, but he often got stuck with thorns. This dish was often made by Shi's mother. Later, when his mother died, Shi Yunan, who was left unattended, got stuck twice while eating fish at the dinner table. Over time, he sealed his favorite food in his memory. Shi Yunan endured his emotions and blew the broken hair in front of his forehead, but did not rush to move his chopsticks. "Eat it, don't waste it." Luo Lingsheng suddenly spoke to his nephew. The little goldfish quickly ripped his bowl upside down and said to Shi Yunan, "You can't waste it either." "Who said I was going to waste it? I don't eat it for nothing." Shi Yunan responded with a smile, but there was a sense of satisfaction in his eyes, like a little fox who stole the fish. A meal, eating quietly and exceptionally harmonious. The time after the meal flew by. At 10 o'clock in the evening, Shi Yunan was tossing and turning in a relatively unfamiliar bedroom environment. The jet lag has not been adjusted yet, and too many things have happened this day. He really has no leisurely thoughts to see Duke Zhou. Shi Yunan casually found a coat and put it on, intending to take advantage of the night to go out for a walk and exhaust his energy, but just a few steps out of the room, he ran into a figure at the corner. Luo Jinyu, who should have been sleeping obediently, blushed with tears, and stood at the door of his bedroom bewildered and aggrieved. Children are always children. No matter how they act like adults during the day, they will still show their true heart when encountering difficulties. Shi Yunan squatted close to him. "Why are you crying?" The little goldfish wiped away tears and kept shaking his head without speaking. Shi Yunan really has no experience in raising children. "Why are you crying? I'll take you to find your uncle? Or to find Grandpa Qin? If I don't look for my uncle, he doesn't like me crying." The little goldfish held it back for a few seconds, but still couldn't hold back what was in his heart. "I dreamed of my mother." Shi Yunan's heart tensed because of these words. He simply carried the little goldfish back to the room, and asked tentatively, "Do you remember what she looked like?" "It's in the photo, and it's in the dream." The little goldfish sobbed aggrievedly. "Why do other children have mom and dad, but I'm the only one who doesn't?" Shi Yunan stabilized him on the bed. "Who said that? I don't have a mother either." The little goldfish blinked with tears. "Are you the same as me?" Shi Yunan closed the quilt for him, his tone unconsciously soft. "Well, we are the same, but I know where they are." "Where?" Shi Yunan imitated his mother in memory and stroked the little goldfish's forehead. The nostalgia in his eyes rose little by little. He seemed to be coaxing a child, and he seemed to be recalling his former self. "They are stars in the sky, and you can see them when you look up." Uncle said the same thing. Little goldfish muttered sullenly, wrapping his hands around Shi Yunan's shirt. "Do you really want to live with me and my uncle in the future? Like family? Well, grab your fish egg custard every day. Don't rob, I'll share with you." Children's emotions come and go quickly. The two didn't chat for a while, and the little goldfish fell asleep again. Shi Yunan left the room lightly, and as soon as he went out, he met Luo Lingsheng who was guarding the door. The man has been in the study since dinner, and has not seen the shadows again until now. Shi Yunan looked at the person in front of him, and instantly changed to a teasing expression. "In less than a day, Mr. Luo blocked me at the door twice? Why didn't you enter the house? Looks like you're coaxing very well." Luo Lingsheng was afraid of waking up the people in the room, so he kept his voice low. "Jinyu is still young, and occasionally waking up will inevitably cry. Trouble you?" "No trouble. One of the reasons why Mr. Luo asked me to pretend to be a marriage partner was for him." Shi Yunan had already guessed. Luo Lingsheng didn't deny it, and tapped his fingertips on the armrest vainly. "One is to block those rotten peach blossoms with a purpose, and the other is indeed for Jinyu." He looked at his legs, his eyes darkening. "I have limited mobility, so I can't accompany him to participate in some activities in the park. Uncle Qin is old, and it's not very good to have a subordinate to accompany me, so I need a parent in the legal sense. It's inconvenient not to find the opposite sex. Jinyu has no sense of security, and the follow-up agreement expires and the divorce will easily affect the woman's reputation. The reasons are stated word by word, and the logic is clear and people can't find faults. Shi Yunan laughed lowly, bent down to look at Luo Lingshen's eyes. Mr. Luo, do you have a third reason? The light above his head cast a hazy light and shadow under his slender eyelashes, and swept on the person's heart tremblingly, and there was a blurred ambiguity in the air. Luo Lingshen's seemingly calm eyes hid turbulent waves, and he sat quietly in his wheelchair to deny, no, just these two reasons. Marriage is a very prudent thing. Even if same-sex marriage, it does not mean that there is no harm. So, I hope second young master Shi will think it through clearly, and don't regret it after the agreement takes effect. Regret? How is it possible? Shi Yunan stretched out his finger and waved, his fingertips deliberately almost touching Luo Lingshen's thin lips. The moment they were about to touch, Luo Lingshen's broad palm squeezed his fingertips and stopped. Second Master Shi. The man's palm was a little hot. Shi Yunan, who failed to flirt, sighed regretfully and replied, Mr. Luo, I am an adult and have the right to make decisions and be responsible for my own life. He didn't care about the various reasons for Luo Lingshen's fake marriage, just as at this moment he also had a secret reason for needing a fake marriage. My luggage document, you have someone bring it back for me. Shi Yunan didn't rush away from his hand, but instead hooked his fingertips on Luo Lingshen's palm, poking around to give the answer. Then tomorrow, we can go to collect the certificate. The next morning, Shi Yunan was sitting in the waiting hall of the Civil Affairs Bureau, and his mood was a little subtle. He didn't expect that the first time in his life would be the case with a person who has known each other for less than 2 days, agreement, flash marriage. Now that the society is open, whether it is the opposite or the same sex, it is legal to marry, and even the procedures for obtaining the certificate are so simple that you only need to be present with your ID card. Today is not a weekend, I glanced at him, and it is not a day with a special meaning. There are not many couples rushing to collect the certificate. Luo Lingsheng sat in a wheelchair, very nervous. There is no room for regret now. Shi Yunan shook his head fearlessly, what do I have to regret for picking up a handsome and rich marriage partner for nothing? It's just a fake marriage, and he won't lose a piece of meat. The closed door opened, and the staff in charge of leading the process shouted, the next couple can come in and take pictures. The next second, her eyes were fixed on Luo Lingshen's body, and the surprise and regret on her face alternated in a wheelchair. With such a talented person, how could he hurt his leg? Pity. Shi Yunan had already noticed her scrutiny, and reminded aloud, Miss, are you here yet? On the 14th. The staff's eyes moved to the side, and after seeing Shi Yunan's appearance, they secretly sighed, this pair is so handsome, and they can get married even if they have inconvenient legs, most of them are true love. Yes, come in, take a picture and fill in the information. Hearing this, Luo Lingsheng controlled the wheelchair to enter the room. Shi Yunan sensed his declining mood, and followed him in with a flick of his eyes. The layout of the shooting platform is very simple, with a big red curtain hanging on the wall as the background, and even the camera position is fixed. When the photographer saw Luo Lingshen's situation, he took the initiative to remove one chair, and then adjusted the other chair to the height agreed with the wheelchair. Luo Lingsheng didn't speak the whole time, and his face was not very good looking. The assistant Qin Jian and the bodyguard Yuan Meng, who followed him, looked at each other and felt nervous at the same time. The owner of the house hates being specially treated by others. The photographer is kind but stepping on thunder everywhere, so he almost said, because you have inconvenient legs and feet, I give priority to cooperating with you. Shi Yunan really had any experience in this kind of thing. He sat down and asked, let's just sit and shoot side by side like this. Yes. But this gentleman, you'd better tie your hair so that you don't block your face. The photographer suggested that the youth's hair length was not a problem, but his face was very delicate, and it looked better when it was exposed. Shi Yunan nodded and fumbled for a small rubber band from his trousers pocket. He glanced at Luo Lingsheng with a stern face, and approached the man before the staff handed the mirror. Shi Yunan grabbed the wheelchair by the armrest, revealing that there was a funny bad intention hidden. "Wait, don't move." The distance between the two was suddenly shortened, and the warm breath was so close that it was quietly curled up. Luo Lingsheng hid a backboard under his clothes. "What are you doing? Use your lenses as mirrors and you'll be fine soon." Luo Lingsheng looked at the face that was close at hand and acquiesced to his behavior. The young man's skin was unbelievably white, his apricot-like eyes were sparkling, and the peak of his nose was straight and beautiful. Further down, the pale lips were slightly opened, and it seemed that the pink tongue could still be seen. The open collar is like a silent seduction, bewitching the eyes of others to look down. He obviously didn't do anything, but he seemed to have done all the tricky things over and over again. "Luo Lingsheng, what should I do?" Shi Yunan, who had tied his hair, murmured his name, his eyes full of cunning after he succeeded. "Your eyes are all about me now." Luo Lingsheng stared at Shi Yunan, his face did not reveal any unnecessary emotions, but just when the other party was about to retreat proudly, he made a move. Luo Lingsheng closed the wrist of the person in front of him, his voice was deep. "You don't move either." Shi Yunan was startled. "What?" Suddenly, Luo Lingsheng reached out to his neckline and slowly tied the two unfastened buttons. His fingers were slender, with a thin layer of calluses on their pulps. When they occasionally touched the skin under his clothes, the flash of coolness and numbness made Shi Yunan involuntarily lose his breath. "Itch!" Shi Yunan wanted to hide subconsciously, but Luo Lingsheng followed. A gleam of darkness flashed across his calm eyes, as if he was staring at the prey in his realm. "You can only play around with your temper, I can't stand it if you move a little bit." "Second young master Shi, who is it?" "Measured." Shi Yunan was blocked by him, and it was rare for him to be honest for 2 seconds. This time Luo Lingsheng retracted his hand in satisfaction. "Okay, it's time to take pictures." "Wait." Shi Yunan was not to be outdone. He quickly took off Luo Lingsheng's gold-rimmed glasses, and his fingertips deliberately ran along the peak of his eyebrows to find his home court. "Mr. Luo, I think you look better without glasses." The closest photographer looked hot for a while. "What the is this stinky couple playing? You won't let me, I won't let you," but the sticky flirtatious atmosphere is almost out of sight. Shi Yunan didn't see the photographer's reaction, and continued, "This is the first photo we took together. We have to show the best state. Maybe I will show it off in the future." He blinked at Luo Lingsheng, as if the two of them did not intend to agree on a fake marriage, but really planned to rely on this document for the rest of their lives. Luo Lingsheng did not refuse. "Okay, let Qin Jian hold it first." "Okay." Qin Jian, who was named, quickly stepped forward, took the things, and stepped aside. "Did you find it?" "The head of the family is in a better mood." Yuan Meng, who was beside him, didn't say anything, just nodded. As Luo Lingsheng's personal assistants and bodyguards, the two were the ones who knew how to look the most. Compared with the moment when he first entered the room, Luo Lingsheng's mood has obviously changed from cloudy to sunny, and all of this is because of second young master Shi? It's so weird. Half an hour later, the two took the red books in their hands. Shi Yunan walked out of the civil affairs building slowly and stuffed a toffee into his mouth. In order to express congratulations in the bureau, each pair of newlyweds who receive the certificate can get a wedding candy. Sweet and juicy, milky. Luo Lingsheng, who was on the side, used his strength to get back into the car from the wheelchair, and motioned to Qin Jian with his eyes silently. Qin Jian reacted, took out a bank card with stamped VIP words and handed it to Shi Yunan, who had not yet gotten in the car. "Second Master Shi, this is prepared for you by the owner, and the password is your birthday." The two signed a fake marriage agreement early in the morning, and what they are doing now is to fulfill their respective rights and interests. Luo Lingsheng added, there is no limit to this card, but the consumption flow will be sent to me in real time. As long as you don't break the law, it's up to you to spend what you want. Shi Yunan looked at Luo Lingsheng, then looked at the bank card handed in front of him. Thank you. Is this what it feels like to be in a rich family? Shi Yunan accepted it without any burden and smiled brightly. Exchange a red book for an unlimited bank card, it seems that I am quite valuable. Luo Lingsheng got used to his jokes, and only asked, I'm going to the group meeting now. Is it okay for you to take a taxi home by yourself? I'll give you a dedicated driver in 2 days. Shi Yunan shrugged, no, as long as you're not afraid of me running away. In fact, Shi Yunan prefers the freedom of driving by himself rather than controlling others to drive, but he didn't mention this in front of Luo Lingsheng, lest he stab the other person's scar again. A minute later, the car sped away. Standing in the same place, Shi Yunan looked at the bank card he just got, and sighed with emotion. He lived for 25 years. The first 7 years were the second young master Jingui who was pampered and grew up. The subsequent life went from being lonely and helpless, to being accustomed to it, and then to heartless. Shi Yunan saves money when he has no money, and is willing to spend it when he has money. Now that this has entered Luo's house by accident, and the legal partner is Luo Lingsheng, the head of the family, this matter is going to spread, and I don't know how many people's eyes are red and how many people are blocked. Having lived for so many years without fighting and robbing, but the result is still being calculated by that mother and son. Shi Yunan sneered, and picked up his usual joking look. If so, then he will stir up the muddy water. As for the ending in the dream, go as far as you want. Shi Yunan didn't rush back to Luo's house, but took advantage of his free time to visit the physical store in the mall. This time I returned to China suddenly, and the marriage certificate was even more sudden. Since I chose to stay in the country to observe secretly, I had to purchase some personal necessities for life. Shi Yunan is used to living alone, and his work is organized. He bought all the things he needed and asked the running companion to help him send it back to Luo's house. Suddenly, the WeChat communication rang, and it was the familiar name. Fu Ziyu. Shi Yunan remembered something and answered the phone quickly. Fu Ziyu on the other end of the communication complained for a while. I said, Ancestor, where are you going to die? I was waiting at the airport until the daylily was cold. Sorry, I forgot to tell you, I temporarily changed my plan yesterday and didn't go back by plane. Fu Ziyu on the other end gritted his teeth and couldn't do anything about him. I really convinced you, tell me, what plans have changed? Didn't Mr. Shi force you to marry and get engaged? No, but I'm married and I just got my license this morning. The voice on the other end of WeChat froze for a few seconds, and it was furious. Shi Yunan, you have a problem with your brain? Are you jumping into the grave? I can help you find out that Luo family master Luo Yanchuan is not a good guy. He is addicted to alcohol all day long, unprofessional. Ziyu, I didn't get a certificate with Luo Yanchuan. Ah? Who is that with? It's a long story. Shi Yunan pondered that he couldn't say a few words. Why don't we wait until we meet and talk later? Okay, I just have to go back to China soon, and you can confess to me when I meet you. Fu Ziyu demanded through gritted teeth, don't put your business abroad, and come back to a country to play flash marriage for me? Shi Yunan, can you? Really capable? Shi Yunan laughed twice, receiving complaints and complaints from his friends. After the two of them hung up, Shi Yunan found a restaurant with high-end decoration. He chose a seat by the window to sit down and order some of his favorite food. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it was the time when the number of passengers was at a minimum. There were no more guests in the lobby on the first floor, but there were noisy noises from time to time on the second floor, which was really disturbing. Another harsh roar sounded. Shi Yunan frowned, and subconsciously raised his eyes to look at the second floor, only to bump into a figure unexpectedly at this moment. A young man was leaning against the railing of the box on the second floor and looked at him. The other party was a handsome face that belonged to Luo Lingsheng. Shi Yunan's expression was slightly condensed, and his eyes did not flicker. Just in time, someone put on the young man's shoulder and followed his gaze to Shi Yunan's position. Yanchuan, why are you looking downstairs here? Yanchuan? Shi Yunan froze when he heard the familiar name. As a result, the other party's friend recognized him in the next second. Fuck, is that person downstairs Shi Yunan who is going to marry you? Why did he find him here with a haunted spirit? By chance, these words drifted into Shi Yunan's ears, enough for him to confirm the identity of the young man on the second floor, Luo Yanchuan, the young master of the Luo family's second room. Shi Yunan's original marriage partner is also the protagonist of the original world in his dream. In the mouths of ordinary outsiders, Luo Yanchuan is an ignorant and incompetent young master, and he is not serious at the age of 26. But in the original book Shi Yunan dreamed of, Luo Yanchuan was also a ruthless character wearing a mask. In the melee of the Luo family's struggle for family property, Luo Yanchuan's parents were willing to be tortoises. Although they did not end up in the tragic end of the Luo family's big house and the third house, now they can only be controlled by the head of the family, Luo Lingsheng. The withdrawal of his parents resulted in a loss of a huge family fortune, and Luo Yanchuan, who was still young at the time, was also forced to miss the opportunity to compete for the head of the family. Luo Yanchuan seemed indifferent on the surface, but in reality he hated the weakness of his parents. On the one hand, he pretended to be self-abandoned by everyone and used alcohol to disguise his intentions, and on the other hand, driven by ambition and unwillingness, he secretly advanced his career. Until Luo Yanchuan, who was escaping from marriage, met Xia Qiyu. From knowing, acquaintance, and love between the two, Luo Yanchuan saw Xia Qiyu's excellent investment ability, understood the arrogance in each other's soul, and knew that he needed the strength to match it. Later, Xia Qiyu offered Luo Lingsheng an invitation to cooperate, but was severely rejected. Luo Yanchuan's possessiveness towards his lover made him want to seize power again. So, there is the last scene of the original book. Luo Yanchuan and Xia Qiyu joined forces to bring Luo Lingsheng to a high position of power and successfully took over everything from the latter. After all, it is a story of a counterattack in which a pair of wolf-hearted husbands succeeded in ascending the throne, and all other obstacles had to be deterred. However, at this point in time, there is still some time before Luo Yanchuan and Xia Qiyu met for the first time. Shi Yunan turned his gaze back, ignoring it. The big place, the biggest meal. He is used to being reckless, and as long as others don't provoke him, he won't take the initiative to make moves. On the second floor, Luo Yanchuan's eyes flashed a hint of subtlety, and he turned and walked back to the box. It's really him? I thought I had read it wrong. It's him, who lived like a pitiful person no one wanted. Who else could he be? The friend followed him back to the box, and the condescending tone was not respectful at all. The giants are a circle, and they have all heard of melons. Shi Yunan has been left abroad for many years by Shi's parents. He is obviously the second young master of the family in name, but his life is not as good as that of his stepmother's child. He is a transparent person who is not favored at all. The other two friends sitting in the box asked, "Who are you two whispering about? If you don't continue to eat, let's go to another venue for Lille. Our brother Chuan's marriage partner has been found, and we are sitting downstairs and waiting for the rabbit." The person on Luo Yanchuan's shoulders is Kai Wian, whose father is a famous real estate tycoon in Daijing. The two people sitting in the box are cousins, one is Ning Yang and the other is Ning Yuan. Their family is in the catering industry. 2 generations up, they have been in the officialdom, relying on unspeakable connections to make money. These 3 were Luo Yanchuan's wine and meat friends. No way! The 2 brothers of the Ning family reacted with surprise. Just the second young master of the Shi family? Brother Chuan has run away from home and escaped marriage. How can he still come here? Luo Yanchuan didn't follow their words, maybe it happened by chance. Kei Wian jokingly said, by coincidence? It seems that fate is destined, the two of you are destined to be a pair. A trace of disgust flashed in Luo Yanchuan's eyes. How can I like a person who has no opinion and was pulled out of his family to be a blood-sucking worm? He left home as soon as he learned that he was going to get married, and deliberately turned off his mobile phone, thinking that it would be nothing to hide for 10 days and a half months. It doesn't matter if he met you by coincidence or deliberately blocked you, anyway, this person is downstairs, or... Kei Wian looked around, his eyes gradually revealed evil interests. Let's fix him. Ning Yang immediately agreed. How to fix it? You can do whatever you want, and vent your anger to Brother Chuan, who almost got married at an early age. The more pitiful this kind of poor family is, the less he dares to shout after being toyed with. The more Kei Wian talked, the more vigorous he was, and the bad roots in his bones came out. He said that he still looked to Luo Yanchuan for instructions. However, your marriage partner depends on whether you are willing to give up. Luo Yanchuan picked up the glass and shook it, his eyes full of indifference. A stranger, what can I give up? I'll let you guys go. Restaurant on the first floor. The ordered staple food finally arrived on the table, and Shi Yunan picked up the knife and fork and was about to enjoy his late lunch. Suddenly, there was a mess of footsteps on the stairs. Someone was scrambling and approaching. When they approached Shi Yunan's table, they suddenly missed and smashed the wine bottle in their hands. Smash! The bottle slammed into the hard marble table, and it shattered into pieces. The splashed wine and bottle residue flew around, completely destroying the Western food that Shi Yunan had not had time to touch. Not only that, but the liquor splashed directly on Shi Yunan's clothes and face. The waiter in the hall saw this scene and was about to step forward to help, but was suddenly stopped by Ning Yuan, one of his brothers. Did you come up to help? Go away. You. The waiter's face stiffened, and he was pulled back by his companions before he could refute. These two of us are the young masters of the restaurant. If you mess with them now and lose your job, it's you. Let's not get involved when the manager arrives. Ning Yang was very satisfied with the waiter's knowledge and leisurely waited for his friend to play the game first. Kei Wian bent down and put the difficulties on the bright side. Oh, isn't this the most favored second young master of the Shi family? I'm sorry, I didn't take it easy. The word most favored was bitten very hard by him, and the two Ning brothers nearby heard the irony and couldn't help laughing. Shi Yunan let out a low snort, picked up the wet towel and slowly wiped the alcohol from his face. He lowered his head and didn't speak, and he didn't even have any extra expressions, and people thought he was easy to bully. Seeing that he didn't respond, Kei Wian continued to push his nose on his face. Second Master Shi, we met at the birthday party of Mr. Shi, but I remember that you were not welcomed by your own family at that time. I haven't seen you for a few years. I heard that you have become a marriage tool in the family. Shi Yunan raised his head slowly and only asked, aren't you going to apologize properly? Previously, on the second floor, Kei Wian could only see a rough outline of his appearance, but now that he is closer to the real person, he has a momentary shock. This second young master of the Shi family, why does it get more flavorful as he grows? Ning Yuan next to him saw the silent bullying and coughed to remind him. What am I apologizing for? Kei Wian quickly found his home court and the insult escalated. I said, Luo Yanchuan doesn't care about you. If you and the Shi family are really short of money, can I introduce you to a good night show job for free? Go out and be a duck with your skin. Shi Yunan twitched the corners of his mouth and lifted the unspoiled red wine by the table and splashed it hard. Brush it. The wine in the glass was splashed on Kei Wian's face, interrupting his unspoken insult. Bang! The next second, Shi Yunan smashed the empty wine glass at the feet of the two brothers of the Ning family, with such strength that the fragments were scattered everywhere. The sudden reversal stunned the three initiators. Shi Yunan smiled at the situation in front of him, and casually threw out a sentence, "What a coincidence, I also accidentally shook my hands." He has returned to China only a handful of times over the years, and attending the old man's birthday banquet was also a passing scene, and he didn't even remember the invited guests. Just like Kei Wian standing at the table, he has no impression, and he doesn't need to rely on his impression to choose his attitude. People put their faces in front of him, are they still waiting to pick a day if they don't fight? Kei Wian has always been acclaimed, how can he stand this kind of treatment? He wiped away the wine stains on his face and roared, "Shi Yunan, are you courting death?" But the moment he finished speaking, he felt the blood in his whole body coagulate. Shi Yunan didn't know when he picked up the knife specially designed for Western food. In a blink of an eye, the sharp blade directly touched his chin. "Be clear, who is courting death?" The tone of the young man's speech was fluttering upward, and even the smile on his lips did not diminish, but it just made people feel wild and fierce for no reason. The two Ning brothers, who had never been in contact with Shi Yunan, looked at each other and hesitated for a while before they dared to go forward. It's said that this person is not favored at home and is suppressed everywhere so that he is cowardly. This is not the case at all right now. Kei Wian sighed, his face turned from green to red. "Who the are you scaring?" The knife in Shi Yunan's hand slashed down, "Just to scare you." The chill on the blade came up, and Kei Wian paused for 2 seconds, unable to tell whether the stinging pain at the moment was real or an illusion. Finally, Luo Yanchuan, who was watching the play on the second floor, came down to persuade him to stop. "Second young Master Shi, there's no need to make things so bad that it doesn't come to the fore, right?" While speaking, Kei Wian took the opportunity to get out of the range controlled by the blade, and he quickly touched his chin and neck. There was no bleeding, and there was no wound at all. Shi Yunan casually threw the knife on the table. If this idiot saw blood, it would be dirtying his own hands, and the loss would outweigh the gain. Kei Wian raised his eyes and met Shi Yunan's playful eyes, realizing that he had been dumped as a monkey by the other party, and his face turned ashen in an instant. Shi Yunan looked at Luo Yanchuan, the master who was hiding behind the scenes, and sneered, "You have nothing to do when you are full, don't fool around in front of me to find a sense of existence." When he was done, he was ready to turn around and leave. "Second Master Shi." Luo Yanchuan called out to him with a displeased face, determined to clear the relationship. "Since we met today, I just took the opportunity to clarify the marriage. It's impossible for me to agree to this marriage. If it weren't for the cash flow, would your Shi family be thinking about coming? I don't need to say some dirty thoughts, right? Don't say that I, Luo Yanchuan, haven't had enough fun and don't want to get married. Even if I had the idea of getting engaged, I wouldn't look down on a snobby blood-sucking worm like yours." Word by word, the disgust in his heart and the arrogance in his bones are vividly expressed. Shi Yunan seemed to have heard some big joke, and there was a sharp cold light in his eyes, as if he could thoroughly understand the human heart hidden under the surface. "Luo Yanchuan, aren't you pretending to be tired?" "What?" Luo Yanchuan condensed. Shi Yunan tilted his head close to Luo Yanchuan's ear, using a volume that only the two of them could hear. "You want to pretend to be a pig and eat a tiger, but you think the Shi family and I are wimps, and you can't help the career you secretly want. Compared to snobbery, you and the Shi family are half a pound." Shi Yunan's analysis in just a few words made Luo Yanchuan speechless, and the latter's eyebrows briefly flashed a stern look, and then quickly disappeared. The silence lasted less than 3 seconds. Kei Wian, who had just been deflated, couldn't help but choked, "Damn it! Yanchuan, what are you talking about with him? I have to let him go without food today." Kei Wian directly gave Ning Yuan and Ning Yang a look, and the latter two quickly seized the opportunity to surround them. Shi Yunan reacted instantly, and before he could move, there was a rush of footsteps behind him. Someone quickly caught up, and Kei Wian and the other three were directly beaten to the ground in a flash. "Second Master Shi, are you all right?" Shi Yunan turned his eyes in surprise. Yuan Meng? Why are you here? Yuan Meng was Luo Lingshen's bodyguard. He was originally a veteran with great skills. This is very close to the Luo group, second young master, don't worry, I have informed the owner of the family. Yuan Meng answered the question, with a stern expression on his face, alert to the people on the ground. Kai Wian and the other three were just out of tune prodigal sons. In Yuan Meng's eyes, there was no chance of winning. The remnants of the wine bottles they maliciously knocked over were still left on the ground. At this moment, they either bruised their legs or scratched their hands. They all fell to the ground and screamed, suffering for themselves. The only standing Luo Yanchuan recognized Yuan Meng, and his expression changed. Kai Wian and others climbed up from the ground panting heavily, their unwillingness and anger all over their bodies heavier than before. Where did you come from without eyes? Don't you know who we are? If you want to die. The sound of the wheelchair sliding interrupted the threat. The moment the visitor entered the door, Luo Yanchuan unconsciously breathed tight, "Uncle." When Kai Wian and the others heard this address, the anger all over their body instantly faded away, and they all stared at the person in the wheelchair in panic and disbelief. Luo Yanchuan's younger uncle, Luo Lingsheng, the current head of the Luo family, was a big man who even their father did not dare to offend easily. Luo Lingsheng didn't have time to pay attention to these young masters. He caught a glimpse of the wine stains on Shi Yunan's clothes, and the color of his eyes hidden under the lens was as dark as a bottomless pit. "Come over." Simple words, with the aura of a natural controller. Luo Yanchuan thought Luo Lingsheng was calling him, and he subconsciously moved half a step under the command of the other party's majesty. Shi Yunan stopped him abruptly and said, "Who let you pass?" "What?" Luo Yanchuan was startled. Shi Yunan ignored him, turned around and took a step closer to Luo Lingsheng, changing his face faster than flipping a book. He suddenly looked wronged. "Did you see it? They joined forces to bully me." Luo Lingsheng watched him act with a half-smile. "Hey!" Luo Yanchuan and the others saw this scene and did not know why. As early as the moment he saw the man enter the door, Shi Yunan had a bad mood of gloating over the misfortune. When he saw that the time was almost up, he was sticky and provocative in a different way. "Husband, I haven't seen you for a few hours, I miss you so much." The author has something to say. Number full belly bad water deliberately calling her husband little fox. "I'm wronged, it's fake." "You are finished, it is true." "Husband? Miss you so much?" Shi Yunan's bold and sweet expression fell like a bomb. Luo Lingsheng looked at Shi Yunan, who was close at hand, looking at his smart eyes that were clearly irritating and more cunning than a fox, and the corner of his mouth seemed to tick up. This person seems to always be like this, and he can come up to him anytime, anywhere, without the slightest sense of proportion. Luo Lingsheng even suspected that if it wasn't for the inconvenience of being in a wheelchair, Shi Yunan would have made even more irritating actions. The purpose was purely to scare the people on the opposite side. At this moment, the four people headed by Luo Yanchuan were completely dumbfounded. "It's not that you," Shi Yunan, poured wine, smashed glasses, and slapped people's necks with knives and forks. "This is clearly both sides' fault. Why are you acting like a spoiled child and being wronged now?" Kai Wian clutched his scratched arm, and asked his friend in pain and depression, "What's going on? Didn't you say that Shi Yunan was your marriage partner? How did you get involved with your uncle?" Luo Yanchuan frowned and answered subconsciously, "This is impossible." It only took 3 days from when he learned that the two were discussing a marriage, to when he resisted and ran away from home, and then met at the current restaurant. How could Shi Yunan know Luo Lingsheng and call out husband intimately? This person must be playing tricks on them. As soon as the guess in his mind crossed, Shi Yunan stood up leisurely and approached. "Impossible." He took out the red book in his pocket, and swayed it in front of the four people with special conspicuousness. "If you're not blind, you can see clearly, it's fresh, and it's legal. Luo Lingsheng is not my husband, could it be yours?" The double photo on the marriage certificate is well taken. Luo Lingsheng and Shi Yunan were very close side by side, looking like a natural match. The four of them got stuck again, and their faces became uglier than the other. What to do now? I thought it was a small quail that was easy to handle, but it turned out that behind the other party was an immovable Buddha. Shi Yunan admired their deflated expressions, and couldn't help but turn to Luo Lingsheng to prove. I said that the marriage certificate should be photographed well, and sooner or later, it must be shown to those who can't see. Luo Yanchuan stared at the two people who were snuggling together on the marriage certificate, as if they were in the fire that ignited after the bombing, and the emotion called embarrassment seemed to swallow him whole. He couldn't figure it out, the marriage partner who was still disgusted by him a second ago, and the uncle of his seniority, the head of the Luo family, and received a marriage certificate the next second? What the is going on here? Luo Yanchuan tried to find his calm voice. Uncle, did you really get the certificate? But he is clearly with me. Shi Yunan is my marriage partner, it has nothing to do with you, do you understand? Luo Lingsheng interrupted simply, his eyes darkening, easily giving people the illusion of sworn sovereignty. Luo Yanchuan felt the pressure in his words. Understood. Luo Lingsheng manipulated the wheelchair to approach, and Frozen Man's eyes swept over Kai Wian and others in turn. Qin Jian, which three young masters are these? As his personal assistant, Qin Jian usually attends many banquets of wealthy families. One of the advantages is memory. He took 2 glances and reported the parents of the 3 people and the industry chain they did at home without error. The brothers Kai Wian and Nings were so frightened that they did not dare to come out, and their bodies were more straight than poles. Luo Lingsheng rubbed the pulp of his fingers, and there was a hidden tapping in his calm tone. I haven't seen Mr. K and Mr. Ning for a long time, go back and say hello for me. The bodyguards by my side are not serious. Another day I, Luo Mao, will personally entertain them and the 3 young masters to make amends. The 3 were so frightened that they were in a cold sweat, and they didn't dare to answer at all. No matter how much they mix on weekdays, they all know Luo Lingshen's status in the imperial capital circle. This person is not someone they can offend at all. What kind of banquet is there to apologize? It's a hung-men banquet at all. This matter was to be heard by their father, and they would have to be beaten. Kai Wian was still a bit slick, and quickly took the pot. Luo family master, we accidentally shattered the glass on the ground. This injury has nothing to do with the bodyguard's brother, it was caused by us fighting and falling. Yes. We fell by ourselves, The 2 brothers, Ning Yang and Ning Yuan, agreed one after another. Their faces were pale, and they couldn't tell whether they were hurt by the wound or scared by Luo Lingsheng. Luo Lingsheng was unmoved, his eyes as sharp as a blade slashed at the wound. Is the wound serious? Do I need my assistant to take you to the hospital? The heads of the 3 were thrown like a rattle in unison. Send them to the hospital? Don't be sick even if you're sick. No, it's fine. We are rough-skinned and thick-skinned, so we can deal with it in private. No, don't bother. Kai Wian swallowed his nervous saliva, wishing to flee this place of right and wrong. Patriarch Luo, if it's all right, then let's go first. Without waiting for Luo Lingsheng to nod, Shi Yunan, who was watching the show, stopped them from escaping. Wait. He casually pointed to the wine stain on his shirt, and ordered the spoiled food on the table. These 2 are your handwriting, right? Apologize. Kai Wian and the other 3 were reluctant in their hearts, but now, they had to blush and bow down to apologize sincerely. Shi Yunan hooked his lips in satisfaction, and slyly turned his eyes to Luo Yanchuan and signaled, how good it would be earlier. You and I have no reason, why do you have to ask for trouble? Kai Wian was awakened and gave the culprit a vicious look. Yes. If it wasn't for Luo Yanchuan saying that Shi Yunan was the object of marriage he despised, how could they dare to make fun of him? Now, how could Shi Yunan look down on him? Damn, is Luo Yanchuan lying? As a result, the nonsense made them miserable. The three of them suffocated an uncontrollable anger and quickly left the restaurant, planning to settle accounts with Luo Yanchuan later. Knowing that Kei Wian and others had misunderstood, Luo Yanchuan's face flushed faintly, but now that Luo Lingsheng and Shi Yunan received the certificate, he couldn't take anything into account. Luo Yanchuan stood there, his mind buzzing in a rare way. Uncle. The two were actually 5 years apart, but to make him call Luo Lingshen's name, there would always be an invisible psychological pressure. To Luo Yanchuan, the other party was like a giant mountain. He was reluctant to go beyond, but he couldn't do it in the short term, so he had to bow his head. The marriage between you and Shi Yunan has been abolished, and the parents of both parties have no objection. As for the two of you, you are so eager to escape from the marriage, and there is no objection now, right? This was for Luo Yanchuan, but Luo Lingsheng gave Shi Yunan a special look. Shi Yunan met his gaze and smiled calmly and brilliantly. Of course I don't object, husband, I already have you, how can I see ordinary people? For some reason, Luo Yanchuan always felt that his chest was blocked and he couldn't go up or down. He thought that Shi Yunan was here to block his blood-sucking worms, but he didn't expect that he would become a clown in the eyes of the other party. Luo Yanchuan gritted his back molars silently. Uncle, if it's all right, I'll go first. Luo Lingsheng nodded, a sharp flash in the depths of his pupils. Yanchuan, your parents are both quiet and introverted people, you don't want to learn good things, you don't learn bad things, and you don't want to have any thoughts. This is simple, as if it was just to keep Luo Yanchuan away from Kei Wian's alcoholic friends. Luo Yanchuan was startled. I just hang out with them, nothing else. After he finished speaking, he quickly left with Luo Lingshen's permission. Just the moment he turned his back, his respectful look towards the former disappeared completely. The hands hanging on both sides unconsciously folded into fists, as if suppressing some ill will. Shi Yunan noticed Luo Yanchuan's small movements from the corner of his eye, and snorted deeply. Luo Lingsheng noticed the shift in Shi Yunan's sight, and his thin lips pursed slightly, and pulled the other person's attention back. Didn't I ask you to take a taxi home in the morning? Shi Yunan shrugged. I got married unprepared, and I didn't bring many things back home, so I had nothing to do and wandered around the nearby business district. Originally, he planned to go back after dinner. How did he expect to meet this group of people looking for trouble? By the way, I still want to ask you. Shi Yunan thought of something, and his inquiring eyes fell on Yuan Meng. At the juncture where I am going to have an accident, it's okay if Yuan Meng arrives in time. No matter how close the Luo group is to this restaurant, is it possible that Mr. Luo still has any door and can come over in just 1 minute? Yuan Meng is someone who can't lie. Shi Yunan looked straight at him, his face turned red, he didn't open his mouth or shut his mouth, patriarch. In fact, Luo Lingsheng asked him to covertly protect Shi Yunan. The position of the person in charge of the Luo family is not so safe. Although the two have just obtained their licenses and are still in a fake marriage, it is inevitable that Shi Yunan will not be targeted by people who care, and daily secret protection is needed. The first time Shi Yunan entered the restaurant, Yuan Meng reported the itinerary to Luo Lingsheng, and then stayed outside the restaurant. Luo Lingsheng received the help from his subordinate's eyes, and answered lightly, the group meeting is over, I plan to come here for dinner. Shi Yunan didn't say whether he believed it or not, but just teased and asked, I thought that Mr. Luo came to meet me on a date? After all, it's the first day of getting the certificate, so it makes no sense if we don't have a romantic candlelight dinner, right? Luo Lingsheng acquiesced to his proposal, let's change the restaurant. Shi Yunan smiled and took the seat behind Luo Lingsheng, and took the initiative to grab the armrest of the wheelchair and push him out. What? Luo Lingsheng didn't like this kind of help. Shi Yunan wasn't afraid of his resistance at all, and leaned into the man's ear and whispered, there is a waiter in the restaurant who is staring at him, so we have to pretend to be more intimate. The warm breath brushed against his ears, causing a strange numbness. Luo Lingsheng tilted his head for the first time, and was able to touch those soft lips within a millimeter. Shi Yunan stared at the handsome face that was too close to the man, but his heart was obviously joking, but he unknowingly missed a beat. He quickly stood up to distance himself, pushed his wheelchair and walked out. "What? Go home first, I'm uncomfortable looking at the stains on my clothes." Luo Lingsheng pushed his glasses silently, and the smile in his eyes slipped out a few wisps. "Go home for dinner? What do you want to eat?" Shi Yunan replied subconsciously, "Fish, the kind that cleans the thorns." "Good." The two walked away. Qin Jian, who witnessed all this, took the initiative to bump into Yuan Meng's shoulder and asked keenly, Meng, do you see anything?" Yuan Meng quickly blushed when he heard this awkward name. One of them is responsible for the daily affairs of the head of the family, and the other is responsible for the safety of the head of the family. He is obviously a veteran of 1.85 meters. He is honest, but he can hit a group of people with one punch. The results of it? Every day, being teased by a colleague with scumbag fighting ability shouting Meng. No one can stand it. Yuan Meng hurried out and Qin Jian followed. "Don't be shy, I'll ask you something." "I don't know, my brain is not as smart as yours." Qin Jian stared at the two figures in the front row, and walked side by side to guess, "I'm going to be a prophet." The owner and second young master Shi are afraid that they are going to make a fake show.